Chapter 1993. The old man's expression changed, and his hands and feet trembled. Fannin's expression didn't seem to be joking, and he almost cried. Fannin raised her eyebrows and asked, "What? You can't bear to part with it? You wanted to kill me when you didn't know me. Now that you know me, you still want to play with me? Did you treat your promise as nonsense?" "I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. This old man will inform the headquarters to deliver the goods." The white-haired old man wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He wanted to slap himself. "Then I'll wait. I'll give you 10 days. If I don't get the goods by then, I can't guarantee that this mouth of mine won't spout nonsense. At that time, if the reputation of the Holy Spirit Trading Company is ruined, you guys can't blame me." Fannin threatened faintly. The old man didn't dare to gamble with the reputation of the Holy Spirit Trading Company. Others had to have the ability to ruin the reputation of the Holy Spirit Trading Company, but Fannin was different. Who wouldn't believe her? What's more, he was in the wrong today. "Madam, please go ahead. I'll go prepare." The white-haired old man turned his head in a panic. Seeing that everyone was still standing around with their swords drawn, he immediately scolded, "What are you waiting for? Don't you know how to open the door and do business? Don't you have any eyesight?" Everyone dispersed and opened the door. Light immediately lit up the room. The leader of the blood-robed guards signaled to the other blood-robed guards, and they immediately retreated. Only the leader remained near Fannin. He bowed and said, "Madam Fannin, I didn't mean to offend you today. Please don't take it to heart." "Of course I won't take it to heart. I'll just say it. The Holy Spirit Trading Company is bullying its customers. My little heart is still thumping. If you don't believe me, come and listen." Fannin puffed out her proud chest and said, "Madam, if you have any orders, just say it. I'll do it." The leader smiled bitterly. Even Xia Jilong didn't want to see Fannin. She was very difficult to deal with, and he couldn't avoid her. Yet, he had thrown himself into the spear. Wasn't he courting death? "Sigh, forget it," I cough. "I'm a lady, a beautiful fairy. I can't be unreasonable like an ordinary woman, so I won't make things difficult for you. How about this, you help me purchase some high-grade herbs, I want to use them to refine a saint pill." Fannin said in all seriousness. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips. If she was a virtuous lady, then all the women in the world would be virtuous wives and loving mothers. Fannin glanced at Yi Qinghan and kicked him in the leg. He glared at him and said, "What are you looking at? Why aren't you giving him the money? Do you want him to pay for it?" "Lady, take care of your image." Yi Qinghan was speechless. He patted the dust off his clothes and waved his hand, tossing 5 million to the Blood Strike Guard leader. The leader of the blood-robed guards took the money and made 1,000 promises, afraid of angering Fannin. Only then did Fannin get up and leave, Yi Qinghan following closely behind. The leader of the blood-robed guards sent Fannin out of the Zhongjuan Trading Company as if he was sending off his ancestor. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead, and his back was soaked. He took a deep breath and scanned the guests and servants around him. He then closed the door and whispered, "Silence. No one can know about today's matter." Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Several sword lights came from inside the store, followed by the sound of bodies falling to the ground. Dozens of people in the store fell into pools of blood, and not a single one escaped. Outside the Zhongjuan Trading Company, Fannin heaved a sigh of relief and patted her big chest. "I was afraid that we couldn't suppress this group of people. Since they were sent by the Holy Empire to keep an eye on your crazed manner, they are definitely experts. If we made a move today, we would definitely be at a disadvantage. Moreover, my injuries are too serious. I might not even be able to survive." "That's because they don't know that you fought with Xia Jilong. If they did, we would have to fight today," Yi Qinghan whispered. The two quickly left the street and returned to the Qin residence. Yi Qinghan's face turned gloomy. How could he allow others to sleep peacefully on his bed? Fire Beacon City was the throat of the heaven-suppressing prefecture city. Now that the blood-robed guards from the Holy Empire of Central Earth were stationed here, it was equivalent to choking the crazed manor's throat. Fanine saw through Yi Qinghan's worries and reminded him, there are some things between the sacred grounds. If we don't expose them, everyone will pretend not to know. The Sword Dao sacred ground must know about this as well. Since they didn't say anything, you can't touch the blood-robed guards here. Let's talk about it later. Yi Qinghan nodded unwillingly. At this time, the western territories of the war race had been flattened by the Nether Beast. The old War King had just invited the Sword Dao Sacred Grounds Chess Saint and Heaven Sword Saint, Sky-Reaching Schools Daoist Juji, Wensu, and the two old emperors of the Holy Empire to lead a large group of experts to the Nether Beast. They killed and suppressed the Nether Beasts and drove them back to the Nether Realm. The Nether Beasts were ferocious and fearless of death. Their combat strength was extraordinary and their sharp claws and fangs were indestructible. They killed many upper-level experts, flattened cities, and devoured lives. Chess Saint waved his hand and the stars flashed. The heaven and earth moved as if the sky was a chessboard and the stars were chess pieces. He trapped a large group of nether beasts in the chessboard. The beasts roared and shook the mountains and rivers, shocking the experts from the other sacred grounds. Chess Saint had already peeked into the Tao and was only half a step away from becoming an eternal being. Evil beasts, retreat! Chess Saint's white hair fluttered in the wind. He waved his hand and controlled the chessboard to suppress the nether beasts, forcing them to retreat. Strength! This was true strength, not much different from those veteran eternal sovereigns. No one knew about the hundreds of millions of years of cultivation, but one move shocked the world. Buzz, billions of stars bathed the world, and the Milky Way parted. A vision appeared, as if billions of miles could be seen clearly. Countless experts looked up at the sky and looked toward the west in shock. Has an eternal being appeared? Oh my God! Is this the strength of an eternal being? Countless creatures exclaimed. Even Yi Qinghan and Fanine, who were far away in Fire Beacon City, were shocked. They looked at the distant Milky Way in a daze. The stars moved in an orderly manner, and the Tao rose and fell, controlled by human power. If this was not the strength of an eternal being, who else could unleash such powerful strength? At this moment, Green Lotus Sword Fairy, who was hiding in the courtyard of the crazy manor, opened her beautiful eyes slightly. Her gaze pierced through thousands of miles and looked straight at the source. She saw the true appearance of Chess Saint, then retreated thousands of miles and returned to the courtyard. At the same time, in a corner of the various sacred grounds, there were eternal beings who opened their eyes. They were surprised. Is someone about to break through to the major eternal realm? The eternal beings exclaimed softly, but the world knew. Boom! The sky was instantly cut off, and the nether beasts were swept away. They were instantly suppressed in the Six-Wolf stronghold. Whoosh! Chess Saint's white hair fluttered in the wind. He waved his hand and the stars in the sky returned to their positions. A smile appeared on his majestic face. It was like the true Tao of the world, and the order of all things was influenced by his smile. Chess Saint did not rely on any elixirs to break through. Instead, he achieved it purely by comprehending the Tao. Once he obtained it, he could surpass the 9 prefectures Lord of the Holy Empire. Ha ha! My Sword Dao eternal sacred ground finally has another eternal being. The world should celebrate, and the heroes of the world should come forward to meet me. The Sword Dao eternal sacred Lord soared into the sky, and thousands of swords in the world bowed to him. Chapter 1994. More than 10 eternal sovereigns, who had been hiding for countless years, rushed out with the appearance of the Sword Dao Grand Eternal Sacred Lord. Whoosh, boom! A moment later, 28 eternal sovereigns appeared. There were a total of 22 sacred grounds. Excluding the heavenly demon cult, there were a total of 33 eternal sovereigns, 90% of them. Apart from the sacred nation's sacred lords, the Skiriching cult leader, Western Europe's sacred emperors and sacred emperors, including the blessed Buddha Lord and the Lord of Hell, had all appeared. Congratulations to the sacred sovereign for breaking through the eternal seat. The 28 eternal sovereigns arrived at the western region of the war race and bowed. Amitba, our great world is full of talent. It's worth celebrating to have another top eternal sacred lord. The blessed Buddha Lord bowed. The sacred sovereign was all smiles. Compared to the other eternal sovereigns, he was more approachable and less domineering. Greetings, sacred lords. I didn't expect to alarm all of you. I'm ashamed. The sacred sovereign bowed slightly and said, Ha ha ha, since you've broken through to the eternal seat, you're of the same generation. Sacred sovereign, I'm glad that you've contributed to the Sword Tao Grand Eternal Sacred Land. The Sword Tao Grand Eternal Sacred Lord said with a smile. Senior brother, you flatter me. The sacred sovereign bowed slightly and said with a smile. Ha ha ha, let's not just stand there. Today is a joyous day for the Sword Tao Grand Eternal Sacred Land. I hope that all of you will give us face and come to the sacred ground together. Let's have a good chat. What do you think? The Sword Tao Grand Eternal Sacred Lord laughed. He was the happiest person here. Then we'll do as you say. Many eternal sovereigns said. The old war monarch and the others looked envious. They bowed and said, Congratulations, sacred sovereign. We have no hope of stepping into that realm in our lifetime. The sacred sovereign did not put on airs. He lifted everyone up and said with a smile, Fellow Taoists, there's no need to belittle yourselves. No one can say for sure. When the opportunity comes, everyone will have a chance. If the opportunity doesn't come, no one can do anything. Everyone agreed. Most of the people standing here were acquaintances. After chatting for a while, they soared into the sky and cut through the void, ready to leave. At this moment, Lu Fengxian rushed out of the tunnel and shouted, Seniors, save me! Save me! It was unknown who was in a good mood, but he actually waved his hand and took Lu Fengxian away. Northwest Wolf Pass didn't follow. Instead, he quietly retreated. That day, the world was in an uproar. Invitations were sent in all directions. All the heroes and hegemons of the world received invitations. Those who received an invitation all had their faces flushed with radiance as they boasted excitedly. Kuang Fu also received an invitation card. Clearly, it was for Yi Qinghan. No one in Fire Beacon City received the invitation. No one had the qualifications to receive it. Yi Qinghan and Fanning looked at each other. Chess Venerate Saint's advancement to the Eternal Realm had disrupted their plans. You might not understand, but this is a matter of opportunity. For now, let's put aside other matters and return to Crazed Manor. You should have an invitation. I also need to return to my sect to ask my old man. Farewell for today, Fanning said solemnly. Yi Qinghan nodded. He had some karma with Chess Venerate Saint. Even if he didn't have an invitation, he should go and congratulate him. Senior sister's injuries haven't healed yet. Let's go to the Sacred Spirit Trading Company to get some sage pills for emergencies, Yi Qinghan instructed. I know. Go back and be careful. If you encounter Xia Jiulong, run as far as you can. Don't fight him head-on, Fanning replied. Yi Qinghan gripped the flute in his hand and quickly left Fire Beacon City. He activated the teleportation array and went straight to Crazed Manor. In Crazed Manor, everyone surrounded the invitation card curiously. This is an invitation to meet an Eternal Realm expert. Those who can receive an invitation are all top hegemons and the leaders of powerful sections. Even our Crazed Manor received an invitation card. I'm afraid no one would believe it, right? Jiang Jingtian touched the invitation card. The words on the card were filled with the great Tao. They were like heavenly dragons dancing in the sky. Sword Qi wreaked havoc. It should have been written by an Eternal Realm expert. Comprehending it once was better than cultivating for 10,000 years. The Sword Tao experts looked at the invitation card eagerly. They wanted to touch it and comprehend the eternal sword Tao. Jian Qinxue, on the other hand, was generous. She threw the invitation card to Gu Qingyu and said, "What's so good about an invitation card? Take it and play with it. Don't lose it." "Sister-in-law, boss is out. Who will go in his place?" Jiang Jingtian asked. Jian Qinxue knew Yi Qinghan well, so he replied with certainty. "He definitely knows about what happened. He's probably on his way back." Just as Jian Qinxue said, Yi Qinghan appeared in Heaven Suppressing Palace and quickly entered Crazed Manor. As soon as Yi Qinghan entered Crazed Manor, the Crazed Manor's experts shouted, "Boss is back." In the hall, the Crazed Manor's experts came out to welcome him. "Does Crazed Manor have an invitation card?" Yi Qinghan asked directly. "They sent one. They said that one invitation card can bring 2 people. This means that we can bring 3 people to meet the Eternal Sovereign. Everyone seems to be interested in meeting the Eternal Sovereign. Darling, who are you going to bring?" Jian Qinxue smiled and said, "This was a choice that would offend many people. Whoever he chose would make a lot of people unhappy." Yi Qinghan shrugged and came to the hall. He pulled a chair and sat down lazily. He stretched his body and said, "What's there to see about the Eternal Sovereign? One of us will definitely step into that level in the future. Maybe it will be one of you." Although he said so, everyone still wanted to see the Eternal Sovereign. They wanted to comprehend the Tao in the Eternal Sovereign. One sentence from the Eternal Sovereign was enough for them to comprehend for many years. Yi Qinghan looked at everyone's expectant eyes and felt a little troubled. There is still about a year and a half before the meeting begins. We are close. I estimate that we can reach the Sword Tao Sacred City in 2 months, so we have a lot of time. You sword cultivators should take the invitation card and comprehend it. As for who to bring, I will think about it again. If there is no other choice, we will draw lots and bring whoever we draw," Yi Qinghan said faintly. Gu Qingyu took the invitation card and left the hall with the sword cultivators, leaving a large number of experts to stare at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was frightened by their stares and asked in surprise, "What are you doing? Is there a flower on my face?" "No, but the new Eternal Sovereign has a message for you." "Do you know the Supreme Eternal Sovereign?" Jian Qinxue asked curiously. Yi Qinghan was even more surprised. The sacred chess venerable had sent him a message alone, which was even rarer than having a flower on his face. "What message did he send me?" Yi Qinghan asked curiously. "He said that you must play a game of chess with him this time." The Eternal Sovereign's words are really unfathomable. "We have thought about it for a long time, but we still can't figure out what it means," Jian Qinxue said. Yi Qinghan was confused. He did not know what the sacred chess venerable was up to. Chapter 1995. In the courtyard alone, Yi Qinghan sat in the pavilion, playing with his bamboo flute as he pondered over Chess Saint's words. Ridiculous. If he hadn't become an eternal being, it's understandable that he wants to play chess with me. But now that he's an eternal being, everyone is busy. Why would he want to play chess with me? He's the Chess Saint, how can he not see through my little tricks? Yi Qinghan furrowed his brows. He believed that he was smart, cautious, and watertight. However, in terms of intelligence, the chess venerable was probably 180 streets ahead of him. Even if he and Yen Ao worked together, they still wouldn't be a match for him. Beautiful Sword Celestial, you're also an eternal being. Can you guess what Chess Saint wants? Yi Qinghan looked at Green Lotus Sword Celestial beside him and asked with a flattering smile. Green Lotus Sword Celestial ignored Yi Qinghan and played with the flute she just made. She gently blew into it and the sound of nature shook one's soul. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to stop asking. He played the flute softly, but the sound wasn't as clear and melodious as he imagined. It also didn't have much offensive power. He could only try to figure it out slowly. The two stayed in the courtyard alone for a few months, playing the flute every day. Slowly, Yi Qinghan's flute music merged with Green Lotus Sword Celestial's flute music. The two intertwined and the flute music carried their souls, amplifying the soul attacks by several folds. Half a year later, Son of War and Lin Wutian brought Lin Shui to the heaven-suppressing palace. The flute music brought back the images of the three, appearing in Yi Qinghan's stone ocean as if they were seen with the naked eye. Half an hour later, Lin Wutian and Son of War entered the heaven-suppressing palace and headed straight to the Kuang Palace. Green Lotus Sword Celestial was resting with her hands supporting her head. Suddenly, her eyes opened as if she sensed something. An Eternal Saint weapon is approaching. Green Lotus Sword Celestial whispered. Yi Qinghan looked at Green Lotus Sword Celestial in shock and asked, "The star chessboard is in Lin Shui's psyche ocean and has merged with her bloodline. How did you notice it?" Green Lotus Sword Immortal glanced at Yi Qinghan and said coldly, "Bring her in and let me take a look." Yi Qinghan shrugged and quickly left the courtyard, bringing Lin Shui back. Green Lotus Sword Immortal looked at Shui Lin and waved her jade-like hand. The star chessboard automatically left Shui Lin's sea of consciousness and appeared in her jade-like hand. The star chessboard was still very dim. It didn't look like an Eternal Saint item at all. A descendant of the royal family of the Daluo astral realm. I didn't expect someone to survive. Green Lotus Sword Immortal stroked the chessboard and sighed softly. Shui Lin did not seem to be afraid of Green Lotus Sword Fairy. She stared at Green Lotus Sword Fairy with her bright eyes, as if she was waiting for something. "Leave this child here. You can go about your business." Green Lotus Sword Immortal waved his hand and said, "However, when you meet the Eternal, you must keep a low profile. Blaspheming the Eternal is a capital offense. No one can protect you." Yi Qinghan nodded. He patted Shui Lin's head and said, "From today onwards, you will stay here with Master Green Lotus. You are not allowed to leave the crazy manor. Do you understand?" Shui Lin nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Yi Qinghan quickly left the courtyard and entered the hall of the crazy manor. The Son of War was still waiting. "Brother War, thank you very much this time." Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, "You're welcome. This time, it's all thanks to your disciple's timely arrival. Otherwise, I'm not sure if I could bring this child back to you." The Son of War smiled. Yi Qinghan smiled and ordered a table of food and wine. He invited a few experts of the crazy sect to accompany him and entertain the Son of War. The Son of War looked at the experts of the crazy sect in surprise. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to have so many experts gathered around him. Yi Qinghan was very proud of his crazy sect brothers. If resources allowed, they would become legends of their level even if they couldn't become eternal sovereigns. After the meal, the Son of War said bluntly, "Brother Yi, I'm sure you've received an invitation. Why don't you come with me to the Eternal Sovereign's holy city?" Yi Qinghan laughed. "I've been waiting for you. I don't know much about the Eternal Sacred Land, so I need you to explain a thing or two to me. I don't want to make a big mistake at the dinner table." "Of course," the Son of War replied with a smile. Yi Qinghan looked at the crazy sect members. "Brother War, I have 2 spots. Who do you think I should bring?" "Bring the one with the best talent. Lin Wutian is a good choice. As for the others, you are free to choose. The Taoists of your sect are on par with each other." "I can't choose the best," the Son of War said bluntly. Yi Qinghan shook his head. Lin Wutian didn't need to go. He could meet Green Lotus Sword Immortal directly in the crazy sect. This opportunity was enough for him. He had to give this precious spot to someone else. Wutian doesn't need to meet the Eternal Sovereign. The others can draw lots. Whoever is drawn can go. It depends on their luck. Yi Qinghan threw out the box he had prepared in advance. "There are 2 spots in the box. It depends on your luck." In fact, everyone wanted to go. This was a grand banquet that only happened once in a million years. No one wanted to give it up. It had nothing to do with brotherhood. Emperor Yi and Wu Xing obviously didn't need to draw lots. The two of them were saintesses, so there was no problem for them to visit the chess supreme. As for Jian Qinxue, she spent all her time with Green Lotus Sword Immortal. She might not even be interested in meeting the Eternal Sovereign. The group of old men from the Kuang sect were like youngsters, fighting to be the first to draw lots. In a short while, more than 30 lots were drawn. Yan Ao and Jiang Jingtian held the lots, grinning from ear to ear. The others looked at the lots in their hands and sighed. However, there was no other way. There were only 2 spots. Yi Qinghan looked at Gu Qingyu unwillingly. He transmitted his voice to the Son of War. "Brother War, help me bring someone. Gu Qingyu is my brother who grew up with me. He is an expert in the Sword Tao. I also want him to go and comprehend the Sword Tao of the great eternal sacred land." The Son of War didn't understand why Yi Qinghan didn't want Lin Wutian to go. However, he respected Yi Qinghan's decision. He looked straight at Gu Qingyu and said, "Brother Gu, your Sword Tao is very unique. Why don't you come with me to meet the Chess Supreme?" Gu Qingyu's eyes flashed. He looked at Yi Qinghan again and knew that Yi Qinghan must have secretly spoken for him. However, he didn't point it out and quickly stood up to thank the Son of War. At this moment, Fazhen Demon Sovereign appeared in front of everyone. He walked to Yi Qinghan and whispered something into his ear. Yi Qinghan's expression changed slightly. "What's wrong? What's the problem? Tell me and I might be able to help," asked the Son of War. The blood-robed guards actually extended their hands to the outside of the heaven-suppressing palace. "They are courting death." Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. The Son of War shook his head and said, "I advise you to pretend that you don't know anything. There are some things that you can understand even if I don't tell you. The blood-robed guards are also in the War Race's imperial city. However, we also have spies and experts in the Saint Nation's capital. Everyone knows about this. If you eliminate the blood-robed guards, you will be giving the Saint Nation a reason to uproot all of you." Chapter 1996. The Son of War's words reminded Yi Qinghan that the war between the Holy Lands was always silent. If one wanted to survive, one had to follow the rules of the Holy Lands. One could fight openly and secretly, but once it was put on the table, the Holy Lands could erase one 1,000,000 times over. Senior Demon Ancestor, as for the blood-robed guards, just let them be. As long as they don't enter the southern part of the city or Crazy Manor, there's no need to stop them. Yi Qinghan secretly instructed. Demon Ancestor Fazhen nodded and left the hall. The Son of War looked at Demon Ancestor Fashion's departing figure and sighed. He's old and his mentality has changed. If the heavenly demon was still around, he would have become an eternal sovereign. Yi Qinghan admitted that Demon Ancestor Fashion's mentality had changed. His exhausted soul couldn't support him to become an eternal sovereign, and his cultivation was getting worse and worse. Especially with Lin Wutian as his disciple, he had something to worry about. He didn't even have the determination to die. Sigh. He doesn't need to become an eternal sovereign. At least, he has Crazy Manor to send him off when he's old. The heavens have treated him well. Yi Qinghan said. The Son of War smiled faintly. As a cultivator, it was indeed a blessing to have someone to rely on when you're old. Some were invincible kings when they were young, conquering the world with followers. However, when they were old, they didn't even have someone to serve them. They were even humiliated by the younger generation. Compared to them, Demon Ancestor Fazhen was much luckier. Let's go. It's always better to meet an eternal sovereign early. The Son of War stood up and said. Yi Qinghan nodded and signaled Yan Ao, Jiang Jingtian, and Gu Qingyu to leave with the Son of War. Lin Wutian understood Yi Qinghan's arrangement. Green Lotus Sword Immortal was already half a master to him, so there was no need for him to meet the other eternal sovereigns. Moreover, the crazed manor needed experts who could protect it. With him and Emperor Feng around, Yi Qinghan would be at ease, so he didn't feel uncomfortable at all. The 5 of them stepped out of Kuang Manor. Each of them was as handsome as jade, and their temperaments were otherworldly. Their battle robes were sharp, and their black hair fluttered behind them. Everyone turned their heads to look at them and discuss them animatedly. Yi Qinghan glanced at a few unfamiliar cultivators from the corner of his eyes. They were very strong, but Yi Qinghan merely smiled at them and left the heaven-suppressing prefecture city. The heaven-suppressing prefecture city could be teleported directly to the Wang city through the teleportation portal. During the teleportation, the sun and moon would change positions and the heavenly river would flow in reverse. After teleporting for 2 days and 2 nights, they would finally arrive at a place 3,000 miles west of the Wang city. Yi Qinghan had walked this path before. He had obtained the blue flame demon fire nearby, so he was very familiar with the route. The 5 of them wielded their divine weapons and moved swiftly. Along the way, they met many people who were heading to the Saint City to seek an audience. Many of them were also there to try their luck. If they were to meet the eternal sovereigns, they might just be able to obtain great fortunes. The Son of War watched as the overlords brought their servants forward. Countless young talents were rushing forward, and a smile appeared on his face. This wasn't the first time something like this happened. Back then, during the Zhan clan elder's birthday celebration, many young talents knelt down and prayed for an opportunity. However, not all of them were so naive. There were some who soared into the sky and became the Zhan clan's disciple, bestowed with the surname Zhan, and became the Zhan clan's direct disciple. These young people have the most fighting spirit. Everyone wants to become an eternal sovereign's direct disciple. Later on, you will know how exaggerated it is. Some people, in order to show their sincerity, knelt down every 30 li from Overlook City. They didn't use the slightest bit of divine power. They sincerely kowtowed all the way to the Saint City, hoping that the eternal sovereigns can see their perseverance. The Son of War smiled. Yi Qinghan looked at the countless young talents. Their talents and combat strength were indeed very strong. They were probably the top disciples of some major sects and forces. They hoped to reach the next level and enter the Saint City. There were also some young ladies and beauties from famous clans who were looking forward to it. They sat in a carriage and headed to the Saint City, hoping to catch the eye of the young talents of the Saint City and become a phoenix from a pheasant. Everyone wants to go on a pilgrimage to the Saint City. In fact, the Saint City is just that. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Ha ha. Brother Yi, you are the first person I've heard to evaluate the Saint City like this. The Son of War laughed. At this time, several young men appeared beside Yi Qinghan. They angrily reprimanded, "People like you who say the grapes are sour because you can't eat them are the most disgusting. When the time comes you want to enter the Saint City, will anyone accept you? Disgusting. Do you really think you're some kind of peerless genius? You're just a mid-realm cultivator." I saw a few young upper-realm cultivators along the way. They've all come here devoutly. They've kept a low profile. Do you think the world won't recognize you? The young men and women scolded Yi Qinghan and the Son of War with disgust. Yi Qinghan and the Son of War looked at each other. After a long while, they burst into laughter. They didn't argue with these people. After all, they weren't on the same level. Naturally, they saw things differently. Senior brother, don't argue with these people. You'll lose your face if you get angry with them. A pretty little beauty said to a young expert at the peak of the middle realm with a serious look on her face. That's right, senior brother. The Eternal Sacred Land is celebrating this year. They're especially lenient with their disciples. You'll definitely be able to enter the Sacred Land this year. You'll be a disciple then. You'll lose your face if you get angry with these ordinary people, another young man chimed in. The strong young man smiled proudly as if he'd already become a disciple of the Sacred Land. He raised his head and prepared to leave with his junior brothers and sisters. Yi Qinghan, the son of war, and the others all laughed. Even Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu were mocking the two of them. The son of war said to the young cultivators with a straight face, "I'm the son of war of the Battle Clan, the only true disciple. Ha ha ha, I'm the crown prince of the sacred nation, Xia Jialong." A young man sneered disdainfully. "I'm the holy maiden of the Skyspan sect. You're all ignorant." The young beauty patted her chest and mocked seriously. However, the peak mid-realm expert's expression changed. He said in a low voice, "Don't talk nonsense, you two. Disaster comes from careless talk." Yi Qinghan, the son of war, and the others were convulsing with laughter. These young men were too funny. "Believe it, he really is the son of war of House Zhan," Jiang Jingtian explained for the son of war. "Tch." The young beauty arrogantly raised her head and gave Jiang Jingtian a supercilious look. She asked, "If he's the son of war, who are you?" Yi Qinghan held back his laughter and said seriously, "We're a nameless sect. There's no need to tell you." Tsk. You're really thick-skinned. Don't think that you can attract all the beauties in the world just because you're handsome. This lady already has someone in her heart. A person like you can only attract those vases that only have looks. That little beauty continued. Cough. The son of war coughed twice and said with a smile, "I can't take it anymore. I'll leave first. If I don't leave now, I'll be criticized by the world." After saying that, Yi Qinghan, Jiang Jingtian, and the others quickly followed the son of war. They quickly escaped from the crowd. However, this group of people didn't give up and chased after them. They scolded the five for being shameless and pretending to be people of the sacred land. Chapter 1997. Yi Qinghan and the son of battle were chased by a group of people who were pointing at their noses and scolding them. Their faces were flushed red and they wanted to teach them a lesson or two, but it was too petty to bicker with a group of juniors. They could only grit their teeth and endure, speeding up to escape the encirclement. After speeding for several months, they crossed the Overlook City and rushed from the Overlook City to the Sword Dao Holy City. The Sword Dao sect, the core of the Holy Land, took them a total of half a year. At this time, countless young geniuses and overlords of powerful sects had gathered in the city, causing it to be a sea of people. Not to mention finding an inn, they couldn't even find a place to set up camp. Many people had already set up camp outside the city. Perhaps the Sword Dao sect was in a good mood. They actually took the initiative to disperse the crowd and help build simple houses for everyone to set up camp. The son of battle was still all right. The battle race had already been arranged by the Sword Dao Holy Land, but the number had already been booked. He couldn't bring Yi Qinghan to stay. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "No problem, you go to the battle race's gathering place first. I'll think of a way. Tell me if you can't find one. After all, there's still half a year before the audience ceremony. We can't sleep on the streets, right?" The son of battle smiled bitterly. Yi Qinghan nodded and comforted, "Brother Battle, don't worry. If there's no other way, I'll go find the sky-reaching school. I'm their nominal disciple after all. Can't I even arrange for 4 people?" The son of battle left just like that, leaving the 4 hotheads running around. They always felt that they were lucky to find a good place, but unfortunately, they were met with a nose full of dust. "If I'd known, I would have come half a year earlier." Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose and said. Gu Qingyu shrugged and teased, "Money can't buy anything. If I'd known, I wouldn't have come." Ha ha ha, the 4 laughed self-deprecatingly. Looking at the crowded streets, Yi Qinghan had no choice but to ask Fanine for help. "Let's go to the sky-reaching church. It shouldn't be a problem to ask for 4 rooms, right?" Yi Qinghan said confidently. Yi Qinghan searched for a long time, and finally found the inn where the sky-reaching church was located. The entire inn had been contracted by the Sword Holy Land. The experts of the sky-reaching church and another holy land had been arranged there. There was no vacancy. Fan Yin received Yi Qinghan's message and walked out of the inn. Yi Qinghan said with a flattering smile, "Senior sister, please help us arrange it. It's just the four of us, so it shouldn't be a problem to squeeze in." Fan Yin raised his eyebrows and said, "Squeeze? How? Which man would want to squeeze with you?" Yi Qinghan chuckled and rubbed his hands together. "There's nothing we can do about it. We're a step too late, and all the guest rooms are occupied by the Holy Land's powerful sections. Even if you can't think of a solution, you can't possibly let junior apprentice brother sleep on the streets, right?" Fan Yin raised his eyebrows and said, "What's wrong with a man sleeping on the street? Do you see how many people sleep on the streets? If you really can't do it, go find Sword 13. Don't you know each other? Let him arrange it for you." At this moment, Sword 13's face was full of smiles. After all, it was a joyous occasion for the Sword Holy Land, and he couldn't even close his mouth from smiling. Yi Qinghan quickly asked for help. "Big brother, quickly arrange 4 rooms for me." Sword 13 shrugged and smiled bitterly. "Brother, it's not that Big Brother doesn't want to arrange it for you, but there are some holy lands that can't arrange it for you. We also can't forcefully drive away the guests of the other powerful sections. Now, there are no more rooms in the sect. My courtyard has been occupied by the people of the Holy Land, and I'm looking for a room to live in." Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. He didn't expect Sword 13 to be in such a miserable state. Sword 13 smiled and said, "Who asked us to be the hosts? We can't let the guests of the Holy Land come with satisfaction and leave with disappointment." Yi Qinghan said speechlessly, "Then we can only sleep on the streets?" "We can't sleep on the street. Don't you see that there are law enforcers everywhere? The streets are full of people sleeping on the street. How can others walk? So leave the city and find a mountain to dig a hole. It's also possible," Sword 13 said optimistically. Fan Yin comforted, "Little Yi, don't be too particular. This is not an ordinary matter. This is an audience with the Eternal Emperor. A few days later, I'm afraid there won't even be a cave to squeeze in." Sword 13 also hurriedly comforted, "Big brother will squeeze in a cave with you." Yi Qinghan sneered and mocked, "Holy son, you must be drunk to have reached this stage. Forget it, I won't bother about it." Sword 13 smiled awkwardly. This was the Holy Land's arrangement. At least it was done for those people from the Holy Lands who were sleeping outside. Our holy son had already gone to sleep in a cave, so don't ask for too much. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment, then ran to Fan Yin and whispered in her ear, "Senior sister, which room are you staying in? I'll come and find you at night. Let's squeeze in together." Fan Yin's face turned red. She lifted her leg and kicked Yi Qinghan. She reprimanded, "You don't think of anything good all day. Hurry up and scram." Yi Qinghan brought Jiang Jingtian, Yan Ao and the rest and ran away. They quickly left the holy city. Outside the holy city there were many mountain ranges. There were already many people digging caves. In such a big world, to gather so many people in a city, even the Holy Empire's imperial city would not be able to squeeze in. Sword 13 was quite familiar with this place. He found a valley with a beautiful environment and quickly dug out 5 caves. The distance between them was not big, 1 for each person. "I've already brought the bedding. It's prepared for all of you." Sword 13 smiled. Yi Qinghan did not hold back. He stretched out his hand and beckoned for the bedding. He threw 2 sets to each of the others. It was not too shabby. Not long after, a group of young cultivators appeared in the valley. Yi Qinghan did not care at first, but suddenly, a sarcastic voice came from behind him. "Yo, isn't this Lord Battlechild's friend? Why do you want to sleep in a cave like us?" It was a very crisp voice of a girl, but the voice was very strange. Yi Qinghan turned his head to look. Wasn't this the little girl who mocked him on the way here? Enemies really do meet on a narrow road. That person is really the battle child. Why don't you believe me? Yi Qinghan looked at the group of young people speechlessly. TCH, how can the battle child's brother not have a place to stay? Sleeping in a cave with us? You really know how to flatter yourself. The girl did not let him off and questioned him forcefully. Yi Qinghan slapped his head. He really wanted to throw this stinky girl into the lake. At this moment, Sword 13 walked over and said calmly, "He's the sect master of the mad sect. Isn't it normal for him to know Lord Battle Child?" Another braggart. "Which sacred ground are you from? You're actually sleeping in a cave. You're really wronged." The little girl was not afraid of anything. She even refuted Sword 13. Sword 13 replied calmly, "I'm the holy son of the Sword Tao, great eternal sacred ground. What's wrong with sleeping in a cave?" Ha 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 ha. Junior sister, stop fooling around. These people are all crazy. Let's start digging as well. The strongest mid-realm expert laughed loudly. Sword 13's face turned red. He clenched his fists and was actually speechless. Yi Qinghan wanted to laugh but could not. He also did not want to argue with the little girl. He took out his flute and leaned it against the cave entrance. He gently played it. The sound of the flute resonated with the sounds of nature. The melody was melodious and echoed in the valley. The sound of the flute was cheerful and full of joy. Yan Ao and the others quietly listened to the tune and cultivated their sentiments. Their state of mind was slowly changing. Sword 13 was quite surprised. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to be so artistic. He did not seem like a fierce killer at all. Yi Qinghan only cared about playing with the flute. He no longer communicated with the outside world. His entire being was immersed in this flute. He wanted to merge with this flute and reach the point of becoming one with it. He wanted to unleash its strongest power. As he continued to test and play with the flute, the sound of the flute began to change. Sometimes it was pleasant to the ears, sometimes it was unpleasant and ear-piercing. The others in the cave began to feel dissatisfied. However, it was daytime. After everyone finished digging the cave, they went to the city to play. They did not want their ears to suffer. Chapter 1998. In the evening, Gu Qingyu and Jian Shisan caught some spiritual fish and wild rabbit. Although they were not top grade, they were delicious. Soon, fragrance floated out of the valley. As night fell, Yi Qinghan put away his flute and sat down with the others to eat and drink. He was having a great time. Not long after, more than a dozen people appeared in the valley. Everyone was safe and sound. They did not want to cause trouble, so they dug their own caves to rest. There were also some talkative people who took the initiative to strike up a conversation, wanting to inquire about some information. Jian Shisan was in a good mood, so he answered them one by one and made a few friends. Until late at night, everyone dispersed and returned to their own caves to rest. Yi Qinghan put away his flute, sneaked out of the valley, and went straight to the holy city. The holy city was crowded with people. Even now, it was still brightly lit. Yi Qinghan walked toward the inn where Fan Yin was with a smile on his face. The experts of the older generation of the Sky-reaching cult obviously did not live in the inn, but rested inside the Sword Principal sect. Their arrangement was very special. The strongest person in the inn was Fan Yin. Fan Yin stood at the window and looked at the brightly lit city. She was a little absent-minded and her eyes were blurred. No one knew what she was thinking. Seeing Yi Qinghan appear outside the inn like a thief, she could not help but not know whether to laugh or cry. "This bastard, he really wants to squeeze with me." Fan Yin blushed and angrily scolded in a low voice. Fan Yin was afraid that Yi Qinghan would be discovered and he would not have the face to see people in the future. She quickly transmitted her voice, third-floor sky room. Yi Qinghan was suddenly overjoyed downstairs. He trotted all the way to the third floor. Before he could stand still, Fan Yin rushed out of the room and pulled him into the room. "You are courting death. If you are seen entering my room, how can I face people in the future? Fan Yin reprimanded. Yi Qinghan said with a smile, no one saw. I don't care if anyone saw you or not. Hurry up and go back. I am not joking with you. If you don't want to die, hurry up and go back. Otherwise, I don't recommend that you be taught a lesson. Fan Yin clenched her fist and threatened. Yi Qinghan quickly raised his hands in surrender and begged with a bitter expression, are you really going to let me sleep in the cave for half a year? I can't cultivate if I sleep there. Fix my ass. How could a pheasant become a phoenix? Even if you don't cultivate for half a year, you won't die. Even if you cultivate, you won't be able to achieve anything great. Fan Yin bluntly attacked. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips and said unwillingly, no matter what, shouldn't you give me some benefits? Fan Yin's tender face blushed. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed Yi Qinghan on the cheek. Then she said, are you satisfied now? Get out of here. Yi Qinghan was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. That's not what I want. What I want is... Can you give me some pills or secret techniques? But a kiss would be great too. Ha ha ha. Boom. Here. Old mother. Get out. Fan Yin's face was as red as an apple. She was furious as she pointed at the door and roared. When Yi Qinghan saw that Fan Yin had really gone crazy, he quickly ran out of the room. On the street, there were still many people buying strange things. Yi Qinghan walked aimlessly, trying his luck to see if he could find something good. Most of the handsome men and beautiful women on the street were in pairs. Only Yi Qinghan stood out from the crowd. He attracted some people's attention, but only a few people knew him. Or rather, no one knew him. Yi Qinghan came to an adventurer's stall and squatted down to look for something to look at. While he was distracted, a slender arm stretched out from behind and patted him on the shoulder. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He quickly turned around and saw a beautiful woman in front of him. Zhang Yingshi of the Heavenly Chant Mansion. After not seeing her for so many years, she had become more feminine. She had a well-rounded figure and a beautiful face. She was more beautiful than Fan Yin, making people's hearts beat faster. Yi Qinghan quickly got up and said in surprise, Master Zhang, it's been a long time. You've become younger and prettier. Zhang Yingshi was alone. He smiled and said, after not seeing you for so many years, your mouth is still as poor as ever. Yi Qinghan smiled and looked around. He asked curiously, Master Zhang, you're in such a good mood. Running around alone in the middle of the night, aren't you afraid that someone will take you away? As long as I'm on guard against you, it's fine. Zhang Yingshi replied snappily. Yi Qinghan shrugged and teased, Beauty, the night is long. Why don't we have a drink together? Okay. Zhang Yingshi surprisingly nodded in agreement. Yi Qinghan did not expect Zhang Yingshi to agree. He was stunned for a moment, but he reacted quickly and immediately gestured with his hand. The two walked towards the west of the city. On the way, Zhang Yingshi asked, Which inn are you staying at? Ahem, I'm a bit late. I'm sleeping in a cave. Yi Qinghan smiled awkwardly and said. When he heard that Yi Qinghan was sleeping in a cave, Zhang Yingshi could not help but laugh. However, he did not have any ill intentions and was just teasing him. The two walked into a small tea house. It was already late at night. Zhang Yingshi booked the entire tea house and ordered a pot of tea. The two sat on the second floor and drank. Yi Qinghan did not know what Zhang Yingshi was up to, but he did not take the initiative to ask. He only chatted about some common things. Zhang Yingshi sized up Yi Qinghan and asked, Looking at the flute in your sleeve, it shouldn't be an ordinary item. I didn't expect you to have such a wide range of interests. You even know how to play the flute. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and replied confidently, I don't just know how to play the flute. I'm good at other things. For example, picking up women? Zhang Yingshi raised his eyebrows and said sarcastically. Yi Qinghan scratched his head and said with an embarrassed smile, Master Zhang also knows how to joke. I'm not joking with you, Yi Qinghan. This deity naturally has his reasons for looking for you. Do you think I came here to accompany you in flirting? Zhang Yingshi lightly replied. Yi Qinghan sat up straight. He knew that Zhang Yingshi was going to get straight to the point. He said, I'll do as you wish. Master Zhang's instructions. This junior will not refuse even if I have to go through water and tread on fire. This is what you said. Zhang Yingshi seriously looked at Yi Qinghan and said in a low voice, Sell me an immortal pill. The price is not a problem. My heavenly chant mansion has nothing but women and money. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and bluntly replied, Although I love money and beautiful women, I'm not brainless. Can that thing be exchanged with money and women? Then help me find another immortal herb. You have luck. I believe you can do it. You said that you will not refuse even if you have to go through water and tread on fire. Zhang Yingshi stared at Yi Qinghan and said expectantly, Beauty, you are really not polite. I was just being polite with you. I was just joking, but you actually took it seriously. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched as he said with a wry smile, Don't talk nonsense. I will provide you with the location. Once the matter is done, you can do whatever you want. Zhang Yingshi said seriously. Yi Qinghan snorted. It was not that there were no places to obtain immortal herbs, but that thing depended on luck, not strength. Otherwise, the eternal experts would have already taken it back. Why would they wait for him to get it? Chapter 1999. Yi Qinghan snorted. The matter that the son of battle had discussed with him some time ago appeared in his mind. It was about going to Coiling Dragon Mountain to train. Coiling Dragon's secret realm was a large world that even eternal beings were interested in. It was said that there were immortal herbs there. However, how much luck would one need to find one? Headmaster Zhang, I'll be honest with you. I'm prepared to head over to the Coiling Dragon's secret ground. However, even if I were to obtain another immortal herb, I'd only be able to give you an immortal pill at most. However, if you want an immortal pill, you'll have to pay a price. Yi Qinghan said with certainty. Of course. I don't expect you to give me an immortal pill. Zhang Yingshi smiled. Yi Qinghan nodded indifferently and said honestly, I don't have any immortal herbs now and I might not be able to find another one. Therefore, I won't tell you the price. Everything will wait until I return from Coiling Dragon Mountain. With that, Yi Qinghan stood up and prepared to leave. Zhang Yingshi slowly stood up and asked politely, Sect Head Yi, are you going back now? If I'm not going back, am I going to share a room with Head Zhang? Yi Qinghan asked with a smile. Zhang Yingshi was the best among women. Although she wasn't the prettiest, she was charming. Her skin was smooth and smooth. Perhaps she wasn't as good as Fan Yin, but in bed, she could instantly kill an existence like Fan Yin. At this moment, after being teased by Yi Qinghan, her face turned pink. She pretended to be angry and scolded. Sect Head Yi is still so indecent. Forgive me for not seeing you off. Yi Qinghan laughed and left. With a few flashes, he rushed to the city gate. An hour later, Yi Qinghan appeared in the valley. He wasn't in a good mood. After all, he was rejected by Fan Yin. How could he be in a good mood? Just as he reached the valley, a figure suddenly jumped out from behind a rock. He was so frightened that he almost waved his hand. Only when he was in front of the figure did he realize that it was that little brat from before. His cultivation was only at the Sector Lord realm and his talent was not bad. However, such strength was like an ant in front of him. If this slap landed, he would probably be sent flying. Do you want to die? Are you trying to take advantage of your position to bully others? The little girl said with her arms akimbo as she glared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan glared back at him unhappily and said in a low voice, Why aren't you sleeping at this hour? Are you trying to have an affair? Hurry up and go to sleep. It's none of your business. From the looks of it, you tried to steal her away but failed. Look at your dissatisfied face. How laughable. However, the little girl was not afraid at all. She was probably spoiled since childhood, and felt that no one in the world dared to do anything to her. Yi Qinghan's breathing stagnated. Although this girl was speaking the truth, why did it sound so ear-piercing? You! Get out of my way. Otherwise, if you anger me, you'll see how I'll deal with you. Yi Qinghan scolded in exasperation. You think I'm scared of you? The little girl's mouth was strong, but her body involuntarily retreated to the side. There was fear in her eyes. Completely unreasonable. Yi Qinghan flicked his sleeve and left, returning to his own immortal's cave. You're the unreasonable one. You can't blame me for not being able to steal her away. The little girl scoffed and muttered softly. Yi Qinghan heard it clearly. He was so angry that his body trembled, but he could not refute it. He could only pretend that he did not hear it. Back in the cave, Yi Qinghan silently closed his eyes to meditate. He meditated on the 10-character mantra, hoping to master it thoroughly and reach the realm of large success. He shielded himself from most of the outside world's perception and did not want to be disturbed. In the middle of the night was captivating. The moonlight was like water, and the shadows of the trees swayed. The lake in the distance was like a mirror. A full moon hung upside down in the water, as if there was another world in the water. At night, even the birds did not come out to play. It was so quiet that only the squeaking of small animals could be heard. Most people were already asleep, resting, or meditating on mantras. Ouch! Suddenly, a shrill scream broke the tranquility of the valley and woke Yi Qinghan up. It should be the little girl's voice. Yi Qinghan was very annoyed and did not want to go out. However, the valley suddenly became noisy. At least dozens of people rushed in, and they were all experts. They should be from a strong or large sect. Get out of the way. This valley has been occupied by our fire cloud ridge. You can find another place to stay. A dignified voice broke the silence. The voice rushed into every cave, waking everyone up. The little girl was kicked away by the other party and fell heavily in the center of the valley. Her eyes were full of tears. She wanted to cry but did not dare to. This was because the group of people who appeared were all ferocious. Their faces were ferocious, and terrifying scars ran across their faces. Everyone had scars. They were not kind people. How can you beat a child? Besides, we occupied this place first. Don't you understand that first come, first served? Are you trying to bully us? The little girl's brother walked out. He was the expert at the peak of the middle realm from before. At this moment, he was angry. He pulled the little girl up and questioned the crowd coldly. What's wrong with bullying us? This isn't the city, it's the valley outside the city. Only those with strength can live in the best place. How can trash like you live in this valley? The leader's voice was as loud as a bell as he shouted angrily. There were more than 10 big men in the Fire Cloud Ridge. The lowest cultivation level was in the lower realm, and there were 3 in the upper realm and 6 in the middle realm. Such a force was definitely an overlord in a large city. The little girl and her brother were intimidated by the other party's aura. They twitched their mouths and did not dare to refute. The 3 lords behind me are the 3 heroes of Fire Cloud. Salute and get out of here. The big man standing at the front reprimanded coldly. Fire Cloud Ridge? Jian Shisan, who was still resting in the cave, frowned and thought to himself, we didn't invite anyone from Fire Cloud Ridge. This is a major force in the Lan family's sacred land. They are usually arrogant and despotic, bullying the weak and fearing the evil. Why did they come to my sacred land of Sword Dao to behave atrociously today? In order to prevent any accidents, Jian Shisan walked out and said with a smile, so it's the senior Taoists from Fire Cloud Ridge. I'm Jian Shisan, the holy son of the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Land. This is a joyous occasion for my sacred land of Sword Dao. I hope you can give me some face and not cause trouble here. As the saying goes, first come, first serve. Please rest elsewhere. I will welcome your sacred land of Sword Dao. When Yi Qinghan saw that Jian Shisan had stepped forward, he was even more lazy to make a move. However, a burst of mocking laughter came from outside. F***ck There are strange things every year, but there are especially many today. Someone actually pretended to be the holy son of Sword Dao to scare me at the entrance of the sacred land of Sword Dao. Do you think I'm scared? F***cku. Why would the holy son of Sword Dao come out and squeeze into the cave with you? Do you think I'm an idiot, or are you an idiot? The leader stomped his foot and the entire valley shook. His fierce-looking face was trembling, which was particularly frightening. The little girl and her brother also shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Pretending to be the holy son at this time, he was close to being an idiot. I don't care if you're the holy son or not. Hurry up and get lost. Our Fire Cloud Ridge wants this valley. If you delay my rest, I'll pull out your bones. An upper realm cultivator walked out from the group of people of Fire Cloud Ridge. He was burly like a bear. He was more than 2 meters tall and weighed at least 150 kilograms. When he walked, he seemed to be very powerful. No one dared to offend him. Jian Shisan touched his forehead helplessly. This was the second time he was questioned. However, this was a joyous occasion for the sacred land of Sword Dao. It was really inappropriate to see blood. He could only take out his own keepsake. It was a golden sword that only the upper echelons of the sacred land of Sword Dao had. The embroidered sword on his shoulder was also flashing with light. Everyone, I'm really Jian Shisan. Seniors, please don't cause trouble. If you want a good valley, I can point you in the right direction, Jian Shisan said with a bitter smile. Your disguise is quite good. Ha, if this was somewhere else, I would really believe you. However, you actually dare to deceive me at the entrance of the sacred land of Sword Dao. You're really courting death. The upper realm fat expert of Fire Cloud Ridge glared at Jian Shisan with a fierce face and murderous intent. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Cram. Yi Qinghan stepped out of the cave and vented his displeasure. Chapter 2000. Yi Qinghan was filled with anger as he rushed out of the cave. His furious rebuke was like a thunderclap exploding beside their ears. It was full of vigor. The group of people from Fire Cloud Ridge jumped in fright and hurriedly turned to look at Yi Qinghan. Only then did they realize that it was a Middle Realm youth. They were instantly enraged. Kid, do you want to die? Do you know who we are? The fattest middle-aged man roared angrily. I don't care who you are. Motherf***ker, how dare you bully me? Are you blind? You don't even recognize the sacred ground's holy son, Jian Shisan, standing in front of you. What kind of big shots can you be? Yi Qinghan scolded coldly. Jian Shisan hurriedly pulled back Yi Qinghan, who was about to explode. He smiled wryly and said, Forget it. It's a big day for the eternal Sword Dao sacred ground. The whole world is celebrating. Brother, give me some face and let me tell them. Jian Shisan wanted to endure, but the group of people from Fire Cloud Ridge didn't. They surrounded Yi Qinghan and glared at Yi Qinghan with ferocious expressions. They rubbed their fists and were about to attack. Everyone, please calm down. I am indeed the holy son of the Sword Dao sacred ground, Jian Shisan. My residence alone has been given to the older generation experts of the battle tribe. In fact, many of the residences of the young experts of the Sword Dao sacred ground have been occupied. There are so many esteemed guests from the sacred ground. We can't let them stay outside with us, right? I personally came out to stay in the cave because I hope that no one will complain. Otherwise, people will say that the Sword Dao sacred ground doesn't treat guests well. Jian Shisan explained earnestly. Go away. I don't care if you are Jian Shisan or not. This bastard dares to look down on my fire cloud ridge. He deserves to die. However, it's a big day for the Sword Dao sacred ground. I won't kill him, but he won't be forgiven. The fatty pushed Jian Shisan aside and immediately grabbed at Yi Qinghan. Slap! Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed the fatty's outstretched hand. With a vicious twist, he broke the fatty's hand bones. He exerted force with his body and crushed the fatty, causing him to kneel in front of him. What is Fire Cloud Ridge? I've never heard of a few upper-level cultivators daring to cause trouble here. Are you looking down on the holy land of the Sword Dao? Are you looking down on me? The corners of Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. His expression was cold and cruel as he suppressed the fatty's upper-level physical body beneath his feet. You've got guts. Let go of my junior brother, or I'll start a massacre today. Two old men walked out from the group of people from Fire Cloud Ridge. They were both in the upper realm. Their cultivation levels were not bad, but they were not as good as the blood-robed guards. Whoosh! Boom! Bang! Yi Qinghan turned into a bolt of lightning as his corporeal body exploded to the extreme. At such a close distance, not many people could compare to his corporeal body. No one saw him punch out, but the two upper realm martial artists were hit in the chest. Their backs bulged and their corporeal bodies turned into a bloody pulp. Only their souls escaped. Start a massacre? Why don't you take a look at your own fist? Yi Qinghan waved his hand and patted the dust off his body. He ridiculed them in disdain before turning around and returning to his cave. The group of people from Fire Cloud Ridge turned pale with fright. When Yi Qinghan made his move, the three upper realm martial artists' corporeal bodies were suppressed. Only their souls were barely hanging on. The other middle realm martial artists were no match for him. You guys better leave quickly. My little brother's temper isn't very good. If you anger him, you probably won't be able to leave this valley tonight. Jian Shisan smiled bitterly. Who are you? Do you know who's behind me? You destroyed our corporeal bodies. I'll definitely make you suffer. The soul of the upper realm martial artist roared unwillingly. At this moment, Jiang Jingtian walked out with a spear in his hand. He sat on a rock and asked curiously, "Who's the boss behind you? Tell me, you might scare me." Whoosh! Yan Ao and Gu Qingyu also walked out. They sat on a rock as if nothing had happened and looked at the group of people from Fire Cloud Ridge with ridicule. My master is the crown prince of the Holy Empire. The soul of the upper realm martial artist suddenly rose. It was as if Xia Zhilong's name could provide him with powerful energy. Pa pa pa. Jiang Jingtian pretended to be afraid and patted his chest. He teased, "What a big name. It really scared me to death. So you guys are the Crown Prince's people. Do you want my boss to apologize to you guys? Do you think an apology is enough? Make him come out on his knees." A middle realm martial artist from Fire Cloud Ridge saw that Jiang Jingtian was scared and immediately stood up. Jian Shisan was about to go crazy. He patted his head with his big hand and secretly shouted, "What I'm afraid of really comes. Kuang sect and Xia Zhilong are at loggerheads. They're actually afraid of Xia Zhilong's name. Aren't they courting death?" Ha ha ha! Gu Qingyu, Yan Ao and Jiang Jingtian laughed. Their laughter stunned everyone. They thought that Gu Qingyu and the rest were scared silly. But after taking a closer look, they realized that they were ridiculing them with disdain. "You guys should go and inform Xia Zhilong to take revenge for you guys. We brothers feel that it's beneath us to take action against trash like you guys," Jiang Jingtian said indifferently. After arguing for half an hour, the people from Fire Cloud Ridge knew that they couldn't take advantage of them. They could only grit their teeth and leave angrily. Only then did the little girl and her elder brother realize that Yi Qinghan's group's origins might really be as they said. They weren't simple. Their expressions changed. They laughed awkwardly and walked over to strike up a conversation. "Are you really the holy son of a Sword Dao Holy Land? The little girl stared at Jian Shan with her round eyes. The light in her eyes was as dazzling as the stars. It was endless anticipation. Jian Shan smiled bitterly. Have you ever seen anyone who dares to pretend to be the holy son of a holy land at the entrance of a holy land? The little girl and her elder brother were speechless. In a certain courtyard of the Sword Dao Holy Land, Xia Zhilong was wearing a dragon robe. He was incomparably majestic. Xian Xiu stood at the side respectfully. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Xian Xiu, oh Xian Xiu, this emperor thinks highly of you, but you've disappointed this emperor time and time again. Xia Zhilong sat in the courtyard pavilion and drank hot tea. This subordinate deserves to die. Your Highness, please punish me. Xian Xiu knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice, If I punish you, I won't have anyone by my side. I'll spare you for now. Have you investigated the matter I asked you to investigate? Xia Zhilong asked coldly. I've investigated it. Yi Qinghan brought 3 young experts from the eccentric sect for an audience. Lin Wutian isn't with them. He and the holy son of the Sword Dao Holy Land, Jian Shan, live in a valley 15 kilometers outside the city. Fan Yin doesn't live with them, Xian Xiu hurriedly replied. Xia Zhilong's face was gloomy. He didn't want to wait any longer. He didn't want Yi Qinghan to live another day. Whoosh! Xia Zhilong pulled out a short sword and stabbed it into the stone table. He said coldly, I'll personally take action tomorrow night. It's your honor to be assassinated by me personally. Xian Xiu asked in shock, You'll personally assassinate him? This isn't very good, right? Why? If I didn't take action, would you have been able to do it? Xia Zhilong asked coldly. Xian Xiu's breathing froze. He was actually speechless. However, Xia Zhilong's reputation would be damaged if he failed to assassinate a young legendary expert during the ceremony. Therefore, he risked being scolded and reminded him, Your Highness, you forgot about someone. Actually, you don't have to take action personally. Chapter 2001. Xian Xiu bowed as he reminded Xia Zhilong. Xia Zhilong's eyes flashed. Xia Zhilong didn't want Yi Qinghan to live for even a day. Perhaps it was because he was wary of him from the bottom of his heart. He felt that Yi Qinghan was a danger that could threaten his future fate and opportunities. Xia Zhilong narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself, The Dark Walker hasn't appeared for many years. I might not be able to find him. Tomorrow night I'll make the first move. If there's no other way, I'll find him. Yi Qinghan can't stay for long. He'll be a disaster sooner or later. First, I congratulate your Highness on your success, said Xian Xiu with a bow. Xia Zhilong slowly pulled the dagger out of the stone table. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he muttered, Without Fanin's protection, you're just a piece of trash. For me to personally take action, your death can be considered honorable. The originally peaceful atmosphere stirred up the undercurrents. However, the hidden killing intent was dispersed by the joyous atmosphere, making it even more difficult to figure out. That night, Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and rested until dawn. Only then did he play the flute again. He controlled the melodious sound of the flute, sometimes murderous, sometimes pleasant. At this moment, the people in the valley no longer thought that Yi Qinghan was trampling on their ears. Instead, it was the sound of the flute that contained profound laws. Sunlight shone on the surface of the lake, making it sparkle. The fish were very intelligent. They rushed out of the water with the sound of the flute and slid down in a perfect arc. Yi Qinghan walked out of the cave and tried to use the sound of the flute to control all things, including any intelligent matter. The ancient trees swayed in the wind, their withered branches trembling. Their ancient roots were almost uprooted from the ground. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sound of the flute was loud. The large fish at the bottom of the lake soared into the sky, wanting to compete with the sky. The sound of the flute was filled with killing intent. When it reached the bottom of the lake, the fish in the water actually started killing each other. The more they killed, the fiercer they became. The murderous intent in the sound of the flute was like a whispering cold wind that made one's hair stand on end. The surface of the lake was dyed red with blood, and the sound of the flute stopped abruptly. Then, the sound of the flute changed abruptly, making people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. The fish at the bottom of the lake no longer killed each other. Instead, they licked each other's wounds, becoming exceptionally harmonious. In the valley, the eyes of the 20-odd people had turned red. They were on the verge of killing each other, but after hearing the sound of the flute, they calmed down. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan was not targeting them. He was only experimenting with the fish in the lake. Otherwise, this group of people would definitely have killed each other. So the sound of the flute can control souls. The weaker the enemy's soul, the easier it is to control them. Yi Qinghan put away the flute and thought to himself, this was a spiritual artifact that eternal sovereigns had sacrificed their souls to for countless years, so its power was bound to be far greater than this. If one wanted to display its greatest power, they would have to accumulate experience over many years. It might take 30 to 50 years, 300 to 500 years, or even 1,000 years. Yi Qinghan wasn't in a hurry. He put away the green bamboo flute and prepared to return to the valley, but the little girl ran over to pick up the dead fish. Don't eat these dead fish. The evil aura they exuded before they died is too strong. They are filled with killing aura and lack spirituality. Eating them won't benefit you at all, Yi Qinghan reminded indifferently. The little girl curled her lips and retracted her hand. She made a face at Yi Qinghan before running back to the valley. Yi Qinghan smiled and followed into the valley. Let's enter the city to eat something and buy some pills. I don't have any pills on me now, Yi Qinghan said to Gu Qingyu and company. Let's go. I'll be the host. No one is more familiar with Holy City than me, said Sword 13 with a smile. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, then I'll have to trouble you, Brother 13. The five quickly set up a formation in the cave and sped into the city. There was a sea of people in the city. Most of them had come on a pilgrimage, hoping to be touched by some fortune. They were all smiles and completely unguarded. They didn't look like they were roaming the Jianghu, but more like they were looking for treasures. Everyone knew that this was a joyous occasion for the eternal Sword Dao sacred land. Anyone who dared to make a move here, even a holy son of the sacred land, would be pulled down. Sword 13 led Yi Qinghan and the others through the crowd. However, they still couldn't squeeze into a restaurant even after passing through a dozen or so restaurants. The line stretched all the way to the entrance. Looks like you guys won't have the luck to eat, Sword 13 shrugged and mocked himself. Yi Qinghan and the others didn't mind. They found a restaurant outside and casually ate some mundane food. It was a different kind of flavor. Just as the five of them were eating and chatting, a cold wind suddenly appeared behind them. The killing intent was so condensed that it was tangible. This aura had only appeared on Yan Yunbei before. However, the strength of this aura was obviously stronger than Yan Yunbei's. Yi Qinghan immediately turned to look behind him and saw a person dressed in black with a black cloth on his head. He was about 1.78 meters tall and thin. It was hard to tell if he was a man or a woman. His entire body was wrapped like a shroud, giving off a sense of fatal threat. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but clench his fists, not daring to relax in the slightest. Who is he? Yi Qinghan looked at Sword 13 and secretly transmitted his voice. A trace of doubt appeared in Sword 13's eyes. He murmured, he could be a dark walker. However, this person never walks in the day. No one knows his true identity, so I'm not sure. Which faction is he from? He can't be one of Xia Zhilong's subordinates, can he? Yi Qinghan frowned and asked. Sword 13 immediately replied, don't worry. The Dark Walker is a lone wolf. I don't know his inheritance, but he's definitely not one of the 9 Dragons Crown Prince's men. Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. If he were to be stared at by such a person, he would probably not be able to sleep or eat in peace. Only the experts noticed this black-clothed man. The others walked past him as if nothing had happened. They didn't feel anything at all. The black-clothed man calmly passed by the 5 of them. He only glanced at Yi Qinghan and the others indifferently. Then, he quickly walked into the depth. His footsteps seemed slow, but in fact, he appeared 100 meters away in 3 breaths. "He's going to the Sword Dao sect," Sword 13 said hesitantly. Yi Qinghan suddenly recalled the words that the Chess Supreme had transmitted to him. He threw the things in his hands onto the table and said, "Pay the bill." After paying the bill, Yi Qinghan quickly followed and said to Sword 13, "Let's go to the Sword Dao sect. I want to visit the Chess Supreme." Sword 13 hurriedly reminded him, "Brother, it's not that I don't want to take you there, but Uncle Master Chess Supreme has already gone into seclusion and won't see anyone. If you want to see him, you'll probably have to wait until the ceremony." Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "I'm not shamelessly asking to see him. I'm going to meet him on his orders." Only then did Sword 13 lead the 4 of them and rush towards the Sword Dao sect. Half a day later, at the foot of the Sword Dao sect, the 5 of them slowed down and walked towards the sacred chess peak. The sacred chess peak was peaceful. Until now, it was bathed in holy light and shrouded in the mysteries of the great Tao. It was a blessing to take a look at it. Many young talents were comprehending the great Tao at the foot of the mountain. Even Xia Zhilong was sitting in the distance, comprehending the supreme Tao techniques of the world. Yi Qinghan came to meet the Chess Supreme by imperial decree. No one stopped him, and he climbed all the way to the top of the sacred chess peak. The entire mountain top was cut off, and a huge temple sat on the mountain top. Chapter 2002. Jian Shisan stood at the back, side by side with Gu Qingyu and the others. Only Yi Qinghan stood at the door. He bowed and said, "I'm here to meet the chess saint under the orders of the senior." No sound came from the hall. Everyone watching from afar had strange smiles on their faces, especially Xia Zhilong. He mocked, "This person is so confident that he's brainless. This is the time when the chess saint is comprehending eternity. Time is so precious that he doesn't even meet the other saints. Does he really not know, or is he pretending not to know?" He came to disturb the chess saint, and Jian Shisan didn't stop him. If the upper echelons of the Holy Land of Swordsmanship knew about this, these 5 people who disturbed the saint's comprehension would probably be sentenced to death. "When the time comes, your highness won't even have to do anything," Xian Xiu bowed and whispered. Xia Zhilong smiled coldly and waved his hand. "Go and inform the upper echelons of the Holy Land of Swordsmanship. It's best to alert the eternal saint of swordsmanship. I want to see a good show today." "Yes." Xian Xiu bowed and left. There was silence on the sacred chess peak. The sacred chess venerate did not seem to hear the commotion outside, nor did he hear Yi Qinghan's request for an audience. Yi Qinghan stood respectfully and did not move. However, Jian Shisan was a little flustered. He quickly ran forward and pulled Yi Qinghan's sleeve. He whispered, "Brother, don't get me in trouble. Did Uncle Master really summon you?" Yi Qinghan nodded and whispered back, "Of course it's true. Would I joke about something like this?" Jian Shisan was still a little worried. He said, "Let's leave first. When Uncle Master comes out, he will naturally summon you. Otherwise, disturbing the Eternal Saint's seclusion is a crime punishable by death." Yi Qinghan hesitated. Just as he was about to leave, a deep and gentle voice came from the hall. "Come in." Creak, the door opened automatically. The hall was dazzling, shining like stars. It was like chess pieces were moving. It contained the heavenly ways, reincarnation, and nature's mystical method. Even an unparalleled expert would be lost in it. Yi Qinghan quickly stepped into the hall and followed a passageway that led deep into the palace. The palace was only 100 feet long, but after walking for a few hundred meters, he still hadn't reached the end. After walking for about a kilometer, a bright light appeared in front of them. Yi Qinghan increased his speed and stepped out of the tunnel. In front of him was a completely different valley. It was as beautiful as a fairyland. Immortal cranes soared into the sky, spiritual birds soared into the sky, and ancient vicious beasts were actually as gentle as kittens, respectfully looking at a white-haired elder. The elder was none other than Chess' venerable saint. He sat on a huge chessboard, as if the earth was his chessboard and the mountains were his chess pieces. He moved the mountains and rivers in a majestic manner. A waterfall hung in the air, descending from the sky. It was like a flowing river of stars, and the floating mist was like immortal qi. Yi Qinghan was dumbfounded. He never thought that there would be such a place in sacred Chess Peak. Whoosh! The chessboard beneath Chess' venerable saint rapidly shrank to about the size of 3 houses. He sat in the middle of the world river, and the chess pieces on the chessboard were engraved with ancient script. Although it was the simplest Chinese chess, it contained all kinds of changes. Even a single move could cause the world to change colors. Come here. Chess' venerable saint's words and actions were adhered to. It was just a simple sentence, but it made Yi Qinghan's body involuntarily fly towards the chessboard. Yi Qinghan couldn't even control his own body. Yi Qinghan was appalled. At that moment, he understood how strong and terrifying an eternal being was. Compared to a middle-level or high-level eternal being, it was like the difference between a deity and an ordinary mortal. A single thought of an eternal being could kill thousands of high-level eternal beings. Senior, why did you summon me? Yi Qinghan landed on one end of the chessboard and asked in surprise. An existence like an eternal being didn't seem to have anything to do with Yi Qinghan, who was at the middle-level eternal being. The vision of such an existence seemed to only look at existences of the same level. At that moment, Yi Qinghan was also confused. You are the first to meet an eternal being who doesn't kneel. Chess' venerable saint slowly stood up. His white hair fluttered, and his white robes were like snow. He was like an immortal, so strong that he could split the heavens with a wave of his hand. However, he didn't give Yi Qinghan any pressure when he stood in front of him. This was the state of mind. Other than Green Lotus Sword Immortal, only Chess' venerable saint could do this. No one in the world dares to disrespect the might of a sage. I have always been in awe of the Chess Venerable. The sage naturally wouldn't be impressed by my kneeling. Yi Qinghan bowed respectfully as he replied. Ha ha! I knew it. Your mouth can make the dead come alive. Your brain is full of schemes. Chess' venerable saint laughed heartily. Yi Qinghan laughed awkwardly as he waited for Chess' venerable saint to explain his purpose for summoning him. However, Chess' venerable saint didn't say anything else. Instead, he gestured with his hand and said, I didn't summon you for any other reason. I just feel that you are different, so I want to play a game of chess with you. A black line appeared on Yi Qinghan's forehead. He smiled bitterly and said, Saint, please don't put me down. Your chess skills have already reached the pinnacle of perfection. How can my half-baked skills catch your eye? However, Chess' venerable saint wasn't prepared to let Yi Qinghan off. Instead, he said truthfully, I just want to see how the most treacherous person in the world moves differently from an ordinary person. Actually, I wanted to play a game of chess with you the first time you entered the Sword Principle sect. However, time didn't allow for it. In addition, I wasn't familiar with you, so I delayed it until now. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He asked in return, Sage, why don't you use vulgarities when you scold me? How am I the most treacherous person? Chess' venerable saint laughed and walked to the other side of the chessboard. He said with a smile, You know best whether my evaluation is true or not. In fact, being the most treacherous person isn't a derogatory term. To me, it's an evaluation of a formidable person. Or rather, I'm praising you. Yi Qinghan's forehead broke out in cold sweat. He thought to himself, this old man's soul is probably beyond my reach. He can see through my origin and even detect my thoughts. A person's thoughts are unpredictable. A person's heart is like water and can change at will. However, a person's expression can be deciphered. A person's eyes will always betray their heart. The first time I saw you, I knew that you would be an outstanding person in the future. You will have people with great strategies by your side to assist you. You will have a general who can charge and break through enemy lines. As long as you don't die early, you will definitely have a share of this world. Sure enough, Chess Venerable Saint saw through Yi Qinghan's thoughts. Or rather, he saw through the essence of Yi Qinghan's eyes. Yi Qinghan suddenly wanted to escape. He felt uncomfortable being under the old man's gaze. It was like a beautiful woman standing naked in front of a pervert. Don't even think about running. I summoned you from afar just to play a game of chess with you. Otherwise, how could a small force like your arrogant sect receive an invitation personally written by the Sword Principal Eternal Sage? Chess Venerable Saint said faintly. Chapter 2003. Chess Venerate Saint waved his hand and the chessboard changed. The two of them were suddenly placed in the Milky Way. The heavens and earth were the board, and the stars were the chess pieces. The chessboard was filled with an imposing aura that made one's ambition soar. Yi Qinghan was in the chessboard, and could not even see the overall situation, let alone play chess with the chess saint. He looked confused and pondered for a long time. The first move was standard. The cannon was placed in the center like an old tree, controlling the overall situation. Chess Venerate Saint waved his hand and moved the stars. The Milky Way surged, and the two pawns on the left were like divine dragons emerging from the sea, suppressing the heavens. No one dared to make the slightest move. Yi Qinghan knew that his chess skills were miles apart from the chess saint. If he wanted to win or lose in a way that was not too embarrassing, he could not play according to the rules. Therefore, he took the opponent's horse, then mounted the horse, set out the chariot, and set up a formation with the chess saint. He killed whoever he caught and kept changing the pieces. Blood flowed like a river on the chessboard. However, overall, the chess saint had twice as many pieces as Yi Qinghan. The chess saint looked at Yi Qinghan in anger and scolded, "Can you use your brain? Why don't you play some tricks?" Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Venerable One, when two armies are facing each other and there is a great disparity in strength, one can either retreat and avoid the brunt of the attack, or attack forcefully and destroy the enemy's morale and retreat. Even if one loses, one has to bite off a pair of the enemy's arms. My chess skills are not as good as yours, but this is how it is on the battlefield. You use the heavens and earth as your board, the stars as your chess pieces, the Milky Way surging, and the Great Way first. Who in this world would dare to play chess with you? Who would be able to compete with you in chess? Even the Saint Lord of the Holy Empire would not dare to say that he could tie with you. I'm just a kid who is still wet behind the ears. How can I compete with you in chess? Since I'm bound to lose anyway, why not trade my life for yours? At least I won't be defeated by you and you won't suffer any losses in the end." Ha ha ha. The chess venerable laughed and his aura suddenly grew stronger. The way of the heavens changed and the sun and moon replaced each other. In a split second, day turned into night and the stars appeared in the night. The stars shifted their positions and the vast aura formed a wave like the roaring of the sea. Yi Qinghan, I really didn't misjudge you. Anyone in the world would play by the rules when they play chess with me. They would even try to beat me by a move or two. Only you are special. You don't seek to win, but you seek to make this old man win even more miserably. You are treacherous and cunning. My evaluation of you is absolutely on point. The chess venerate saint's white hair fluttered in the wind, and his divine robe danced in the wind. His aura was otherworldly, and he suddenly regained his youth. The wrinkles on his face disappeared, and his white hair turned black. In an instant, he looked 1,000,000 years younger. His vitality was boundless, and he was like a newborn. His skin became smooth, and his chi and blood were renewed. Congratulations to the great sage for reaching the great sage realm. Yi Qinghan stared at the chess venerable as he changed the heavenly Tao and the galaxy. His eyes were filled with radiance, and he did not even blink. Time in this world sped up. In a moment it seemed like 5,000 years had passed. The one-leaf civilization was born and then annihilated. The world was brand new again. Every moment, every breath, was the replacement of the great Tao. Yi Qinghan could see it clearly with his naked eye. This moment was better than 10,000,000 years of cultivation. He had shaved off 10,000,000 years of time for him to reach the great sage realm. At this moment, the chess venerable was truly comprehending the changes in the trajectory of the world, and the laws of the stars, sun, and moon. His obsession dissipated, and at this moment, he defeated everyone in the world and understood everyone in the world. Yi Qinghan was his last obsession, and it allowed him to understand that time was another type of careerist ideology, but it allowed him to comprehend the laws of the world. Whoosh! The firmament split and the dome cracked. Holy light bathed the chess venerable and enveloped him. Yi Qinghan was mesmerized by the scene. He wished that the chess venerable could comprehend it for countless years. Such an opportunity was not available to everyone. However, the chess venerable's soul was boundless. He had already comprehended countless great Taos, and now he was only one step away. Therefore, after a moment, the stars returned to normal. The chessboard fell, and it spanned across the valley. The chess venerable landed in front of Yi Qinghan. He was like an immortal, benevolent, dignified, and reserved. His smile made people admire him and want to get close to him. Yi Qinghan was stunned and asked in surprise, "That's it? Do you think that the time it takes for a joss stick to burn is too little? You must know that even the true disciples of my sacred ground did not have the chance to comprehend the phenomenon of heaven and earth that I created. You've taken advantage of me," the chess venerable said with a smile. Yi Qinghan's mind was in a mess, and he was speechless. He had comprehended a lot after watching for a while, but the time was too short. He felt like he was addicted to it, but he had to give it up immediately. The chess venerable sat on a huge rock and looked down at Yi Qinghan. He asked, "Little Yi, tell me, who is the person behind you?" Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, I can't say. A sage should have the bearing of a sage. You can't make things difficult for me." Looking at your evasive gaze, this old man can roughly guess the fear hidden in the depths of your heart. Since you're unwilling to speak, this old man won't force you either. However, you've got to think this through. Don't be used by others in the end. For someone like you, once you've grown to my level, if you're used by others, the lethality produced would definitely be frightening. At that time, don't let this old man kill you and suppress you. Although his words were plain, they made people shudder. Yi Qinghan could feel the chess venerable's will. Once he made a move, he would not show mercy. Yi Qinghan smiled embarrassedly and said respectfully, "Don't worry, senior. I have always been a person who distinguishes between kindness and hatred. I will never reach out to the sacred ground of the sword way. Otherwise, even if you cut off my hand, I will not retaliate." The chess venerable nodded and asked, "Have you become a disciple of that person from the sky-reaching school?" "No, I haven't even seen what he looks like. Senior Sister Fanine has always taught me some secret techniques, such as the 10-word formula and the shadowless cloud manipulation. I haven't cultivated any of the other secret techniques in the Immortal Codex," Yi Qinghan said honestly. The chess venerable asked with a smile, "Why don't you learn chess from me? With your character, your future achievements will be limitless." Yi Qinghan shook his head like a rattledrum. Countless people had racked their brains to get a spot, but he had rejected it. Venerable One, it's not that I don't want to, but I just can't sit still. The way of chess is really not suitable for me. If I become your disciple, I will definitely drag down your reputation. However, I do have someone who is very suitable for your legacy. I'm just afraid you won't like him, Yi Qinghan said truthfully. The chess venerable did not force him. He had seen through Yi Qinghan's nature. He was suitable for cultivation, but he might not be the best candidate for his legacy. However, finding a good successor was much harder than finding a genius. The chess venerable asked, "Who are you referring to?" "You've seen him before. It's Yan Ao." Back then, he entered the Holy Nation's capital to send a message to Xia Jielong. "He is the most capable military saint by my side. He is good at deduction and can sit still. His wisdom is stronger than mine. As long as you teach him patiently, he might not surpass you, but he will definitely be on par with you," Yi Qinghan said confidently. The chess venerable nodded silently. Suddenly, he raised his head and looked into the distance. His gaze pierced through the shackles and he suddenly said, "Let's go out. It's getting lively outside." Chapter 2004. Outside the main hall of the sacred chess peak, Lord Sword of the Sword Way Holy Land came with a few elders of the older generation. He frowned and reprimanded Jian Shisan. "Shisan, how dare you bring people to disturb the venerable seclusion at this critical moment? Can you bear the responsibility if an accident happens?" Jian Shisan quickly bowed and said, "Senior brother sect master, it was martial uncle who summoned Yi Qinghan himself. Junior brother would never dare to offend the venerable's seclusion." "When did he summon him? Why didn't I know?" Lord Sword asked angrily. Jian Shisan looked at Gu Qingyu and the others. He did not know how to answer and could only ask them. "Esteemed sect master, when the chess saint sent out the invitation, he sent a message for our sect master to come and meet him. He also said that he wants to play chess with him. If you don't believe me, you can ask the person who sent us the invitation to come and ask." Yan Ao bowed and cupped his fist. Whoosh! At this moment, the surrounding people were in an uproar. The chess saint was looking for Yi Qinghan to play chess? Wasn't this an eternal sovereign looking for a noob to fight? Xia Jielong's expression changed. He clenched his fists and was very unwilling. Even if the chess saint wanted to find an opponent, he shouldn't look for someone like Yi Qinghan. "Shouldn't the younger generation be looking for me?" Xia Jielong roared in a low voice. He was very unwilling. At this moment, the Nightwalker that Yi Qinghan and the others saw was walking up the sacred chess peak. No one could stop him. His slow footsteps contained profound mysteries. He was still in front of them, but in the next moment, he was 100 meters away. Nightwalker. Xia Jielong knew at first glance that this person was a real Nightwalker. He was the only one with such strength in the world. Nightwalker. He is a Nightwalker. The experts of the older generation knew at a glance that this person was definitely a Nightwalker. He looked like an ordinary person, or even a mortal, without any fluctuation of divine power, but the killing intent in his body was enough to instantly annihilate an upper level. Lord Sword looked back at the Nightwalker who was quickly approaching. He pointed at Jian Shisan and coldly reprimanded, "We'll talk about you later. If the chess saint blames you, you won't be able to keep your saint position." Sword 13 didn't dare make a sound and could only wait slowly. The Nightwalker silently appeared at the top of the mountain. He didn't look at anyone. Instead, he stood at the door and said respectfully, "The Nightwalker is here to meet the chess saint." It turned out that the chess saint had not only summoned Yi Qinghan but also summoned the Dark Walker. Xia Jielong's lips twitched. He restrained his anger and calmly waited for what would happen next. Whoosh! At that moment, the door to the hall opened. Chess Saint walked out with Yi Qinghan. He had a gentle look on his face like a benevolent grandpa that left people in awe. The moment the Chess Saint appeared, everyone knelt down, including Lord Sword. Back then, their relationship was that of fellow disciples, but now, it had become that of a martial uncle and martial nephew. Their relationship was completely determined by the changes in their cultivation levels. If Lord Sword were to attain eternity one day, their relationship would become that of fellow disciples. Greetings, Chess Saint. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, everyone stood up uncontrollably. Get up, all of you. There's no need to be restrained. Senior brother, honorable lord, there's no need to punish the children. It was indeed this old man who asked them to come. It's fortunate that they came. 13 should be rewarded. Chess Venerate Saint smiled. Yes. Lord Sword's face was full of glory. For a saint to address him as senior brother, honorable lord, his life was worth it. All of you may leave. Little Yezi, Yen Ao, and the Dark Walker stay behind. This old man wishes to chat with all of you. Chess Venerate Saint's smile did not diminish as he gestured. Lord Sword and the rest bowed and left. Including Gu Qingyu, Jiang Jingtian, and Jian Shisan, there were only 4 people left on the sacred chess peak. Yen Ao and the Dark Walker were more reserved as they stood at the side respectfully. Only Yi Qinghan's eyes were fixed on the Dark Walker. Chess Venerate Saint was in control of the entire situation. He saw everything that happened between the 3 of them. However, he did not say anything and continued to observe. After a long while, Chess Venerate Saint teased, Little Yezi, the Dark Walker is a man. Aren't your eyes a little too strange? Cough cough, Yi Qinghan coughed a few times and awkwardly shifted his gaze. He quickly said, Esteemed lord, please take a seat. This time, this junior has specially prepared some good tea and brewed some good wine for you. Consider it as this junior's filial piety. That's very thoughtful of you. Chess Venerate Saint slowly sat beside the round stone table. There was even a chessboard carved on the round table. As expected of the Chess Saint, his obsession with chess had reached the point of obsession. Fellow Taoist Dark Walker, Yen Ao, please take a seat as well. Don't stand on ceremony. Treat it as though you're home. Come and try the wine that I brewed. Although it's not the best in the world, it's still the most important thing. Yi Qinghan took on the role of the host and said without holding back. Yen Ao felt awkward when he heard this. The sage did not even speak. Who would dare to sit down? The Dark Walker snorted and ignored Yi Qinghan. Instead, he waited for Chess Venerate Saint to speak. Chess Venerate Saint laughed and said, Sit down. Don't stand on ceremony. Let this old man introduce you. Whoosh! Chess Venerate Saint waved his hand and a boundary appeared on the sacred chess peak. It looked formless and formless. From the outside, the sacred chess peak did not seem to have changed. However, no sound could be heard from the inside. Little Yi, let this old man introduce you. The Dark Walker follows the dark laws of heaven and earth and controls all the dark matter in the world. Although he lives in the dark night and does not appear in the mortal world, he is an arbiter who uses violence to curb violence. Anyone who angers the heavens will be judged by him. Chess Venerate Saint said plainly. Yi Qinghan was shocked and asked in surprise, Sage, this duty, this power, who gave it to him? The heavens. The Dark Walker replied coldly. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank and looked at Chess Venerate Saint. However, he realized that Chess Venerate Saint had really nodded and acknowledged the Dark Walker's words. What he said is true. He carries out his duty on behalf of the heavens. The blade of judgment in his hand is a heavenly item. Other than him, no one can control it, including the eternal ones. Chess Venerate Saint explained in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan frowned and doubted the two's words. How could the heavens give a person such great power? Sage, are you trying to scare me? Ha ha. Don't worry, don't scare me. I won't do anything that angers the heavens. Yi Qinghan laughed awkwardly. Chess Venerate Saint shook his head slightly and said, "Why would this old man scare you? If I was afraid that you would do something that angers the heavens in the future, I would just kill you now. Why would I scare you?" Yi Qinghan did not deny that if Chess Venerate Saint really wanted to kill him, he would not even need to lift a finger. A thought would be enough. However, he still refused to believe that there was someone in this world who carried out his duty on behalf of the heavens and ruled the world with violence. Only this old man knows about his duty by chance. Others do not. All the experts know that the Dark Walker is an assassin who specializes in killing evil people. He uses even more evil methods to judge evil people. However, they do not know that he is carrying out his power on behalf of the heavens. However, this old man will let you know today. I hope that you will understand your bottom line and never cross it. Chess Venerate Saint said sternly, "Take it as a warning." Yi Qinghan was speechless and asked in return, "Why are you taking such special care of me? Even if you want to warn someone, you should be warning Xia Jialong. His talent and power are above mine. Because in this old man's opinion, your future is even more uncertain." Chess Venerate Saint smiled and said, Chapter 2005. Yi Qinghan was speechless as he looked at the Chess Supreme and the Nightwalker. He felt that the two of them were trying to scare him. How could there be an enforcer in this world? Ruling blade, a heaven artifact? It was just to scare a 3-year-old child. Yi Qinghan wasn't the only one who didn't believe it. Even Yen Ao was doubtful. At this moment, the divine bird slowly evolved from Yi Qinghan's bloodline. With a serious expression, it said, "To tell you the truth, this divine bird is also an enforcer in the name of heaven. This brother is the Nightwalker, but this divine bird is the Wise Walker. He uses the ruling blade, while this divine bird uses the ruling brain. My brain is definitely second only to the existence of heaven." Yi Qinghan snorted, "Get lost. It's fine if they're trying to scare me, but why are you adding to the trouble?" The Nightwalker coldly glanced at the divine bird and slowly pulled out a flaming blade. It was hard to tell what grade it was, but it was obvious that it could easily tear apart Yi Qinghan's golden body of utmost holy. This is the ruling blade. Compared to the eternal sacred artifact, which do you think is better? Or this so-called divine bird's brain? The Nightwalker stared at Yi Qinghan and the divine bird and asked, "Do we still use our fists to fight these days? We're all using our brains, you know?" The divine bird's head shrank back as it looked at the ruling blade. The flames seemed to be real. Although it didn't get close, it could tell that it was a top-grade item. It wasn't willing to admit defeat as it muttered, "Who knows if this is just a fancy weapon that you created? It's fine to scare people, but if it's a real fight, it probably won't even break a piece of wood." The Nightwalker couldn't be bothered with the divine bird and directly put away the ruling blade. Although he didn't understand why the Chess Supreme had called him here, he was still willing to play along with him. However, Yi Qinghan was very knowledgeable. He knew that the ruling blade was definitely not an ordinary item. It was a bit like a work of the gods. He had never seen the eternal sacred artifact awakened, but when it wasn't, it might not be as fancy as the ruling blade. Yi Qinghan looked at the Chess Supremacy and said in a muffled voice, "Exalted One, did you call me here to scare me with the name of the Nightwalker?" "No, no, no. Actually, the most important thing is to introduce the two of you to each other. The task of maintaining world peace will be handed over to the two of you," Chess Venerate Saint said half-jokingly. "Stop bullshitting me. You're an eternal one, after all. Show your dignity as an eternal one. We're not fools. Do you think I can maintain world peace?" Yi Qinghan asked in a self-deprecating manner. "Then I won't talk about those useless things with you. I'll get straight to the point. I hope that you can sever all ties with the person behind you," Chess Venerate Saint said seriously. Why? Yi Qinghan asked with a frown. Those who are not of our race are bound to have different intentions. This old man does not wish to see the great world, which has been peaceful for countless years, become a place of misery and suffering. Venerated Chess Saint took a sip of tea and said faintly. Yi Qinghan laughed and said, "You're being too serious. I don't have the ability to stir up such a storm in the world." Chess Venerate Saint's attitude changed abruptly. He suddenly changed the way he spoke, and even excluded the Nightwalker and Yen Ao. He said coldly, "The person behind you should be someone from outside the great world. For you to help her so wholeheartedly, she must be a woman. Furthermore, she must be a great beauty. This old man doesn't need to guess to know who she is. She's the Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Do you know how great her enmity with the great world is? Do you know how powerful she is? She might be using you. Don't end up being betrayed and still helping her count the money." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he looked at Chess Venerate Saint in shock. He did not expect Chess Venerate Saint's intelligence to be so strong. In just half a day's time, Chess Venerate Saint was able to deduce that the person behind him was the Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Chess Venerate Saint looked into Yi Qinghan's eyes and transmitted his voice again. "You don't have to speak. I can see what you're thinking. From your expression, I know that the person behind you is indeed the Green Lotus Sword Immortal. You might not understand her, but let me tell you, she's the true #1 expert in the world. Even the Saint Empire's sacred master is not her match. Although I have not seen their battle, I know one thing, and that is that the Green Lotus Sword Immortal has killed an eternal sovereign before. However, the Saint Empire's sacred master does not have the ability to do so." Yi Qinghan's hands were trembling. He felt that Chess Venerate Saint was too perverted. "The Nightwalker is the person closest to the heavens. He told me that the heavens are about to change, and humans cannot change them. Therefore, I have never thought of informing the Holy Empire to get rid of the Green Lotus Sword Immortal in advance, because I know that the heavens will only become messier as it changes. You don't understand now, but when you reach my level and look up at the sky, you will be able to see the trajectory of the stars, the sun, and the moon. Although it is very vague, it is very accurate. The Milky Way is surging, and darkness is about to descend." Yi Qinghan remained silent. The changing of the heavens had nothing to do with him. Let's follow the will of the heavens. Venerable Master should be able to understand that my relationship with Xia Jiulong is just like that. The holy empires will decline after reaching their peak, and this cycle will repeat itself. If their luck is exhausted, there will be someone to replace them. With just you and me, it's impossible to change it. Even if I don't do it, or if the Green Lotus Sword Immortal doesn't do it, there will be another demon to do it." Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice silently. Chess Venerate Saint didn't say anything else. He glanced at Yi Qinghan and sighed after a long time. He continued to drink his tea and didn't say anything else. After a while, Chess Venerate Saint waved his hand and said, "All of you may leave. I will play a game of chess with Yen Ao." Yi Qinghan and Nightwalker bowed and left, giving this old man the highest respect. When they were halfway up the mountain, Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Nightwalker, let me take a look at your blade of judgment. I want to see what a so-called heaven artifact is." Nightwalker coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan and snorted, "Are you awake? Tsk stingy. My boss wants to see your blade of judgment. That's giving you face. You don't know what's good for you. I'll let you see this divine bird's brain of judgment next time. I'll let you see what a true wise Almighty is," the divine bird proudly retorted. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He didn't know the identity of Nightwalker, but he was sure that this fellow was related to Chess Venerate Saint. Therefore, he didn't want to offend him and left with the divine bird. At the foot of the mountain, Xia Jiulong and Xian Xiu stood in the plaza, coldly looking at Yi Qinghan. "Oh, isn't this the crown prince?" Why are you so free today? You actually came to the foot of the mountain to welcome me. I'm really ashamed. Yi Qinghan gave a devilish smile. Xia Zhilong put on a fake smile and walked in front of Yi Qinghan. He smiled and said, "This is the first time I've met an opponent like you. However, you have to understand that if I want someone to die, that person will definitely not be able to escape. You've stirred up my interest. I dare to guarantee that you won't live to see the start of the celebration. Do you believe me?" Ha ha! Yi Qinghan laughed loudly and put his hand on Xia Zhilong's shoulder like an old friend. However, he said in an even more domineering tone, "I really don't believe you. Xia Zhilong, don't think too highly of yourself. Isn't it just the crown prince? I'm not afraid because I have many subordinates. I'll wait and see how you kill me." Chapter 2006. Yi Qinghan hugged the crown prince, looking like an old friend. Both of them had smiles on their faces, but both of them were filled with murderous intent, fighting openly and covertly. Xia Zhilong gently pushed Yi Qinghan's arm away. He didn't seem to have any ill intentions. When the people around them saw this, they really thought that Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong's relationship was so good. They were all quite surprised. Yi Qinghan is really lucky. He obtained the immortal medicine early on, and now he's been summoned by the saint alone. Now, he's on such good terms with the crown prince. He'll definitely soar in the future. Who doesn't know about the crown prince's arrogance? I'm afraid he's the only one in the younger generation who can catch his eye, except for Fan Yin. A few older experts from the sacred grounds exclaimed and discussed. Xia Zhilong was the most likely person in the younger generation to become an eternal being. The older generation had a different opinion of him. It was rare for an eternal being to appear in 1,000,000 years. Other than the Saint Chess Venerate, who else in the world could break through to that level? Let's have a drink when you're free. I hope the crown prince will do me the honor, Yi Qinghan said loudly, then turned and left. Xia Zhilong smiled insincerely at Yi Qinghan's back. I hope there's a chance. At that moment, the Nightwalker walked down from the Saint Chess Peak. He was about to leave the Sword Dao sect when he was stopped by Xia Zhilong. Fellow Daoist, give me 5 minutes. I need your help with something. Feel free to state your conditions, Xia Zhilong said in a low voice. The Nightwalker used to earn money by taking on missions. Killing people was the most normal thing for him. However, most of the people he killed had reached his target, so he didn't hurt the innocent. In recent years, he had disappeared without a trace. Everyone in the world thought that he was dead. The Nightwalker glanced at Xia Zhilong indifferently and replied in a low voice, "What can't the crown prince do? Let's go to the side yard for a chat. As long as you complete this mission, you probably won't need to take any more missions in the future," Xia Zhilong said indifferently. With that, Xia Zhilong turned and walked towards his side yard. The Nightwalker hesitated for a moment, but still followed him. In Xia Zhilong's courtyard, all the servants had been dismissed. Even the mystic wasn't present. There were only 2 of them. Xia Zhilong sat in the pavilion and gestured for the Nightwalker to sit down. The Nightwalker was completely wrapped up, and only his eyes could be seen. He looked at Xia Zhilong and calmly said, "Just tell me the mission. If you can accept it, then accept it. If not, then I'll leave. Kill Yi Qinghan tonight. As long as you can kill him, just say the word and I won't even frown," Xia Zhilong said in a low voice. The Nightwalker raised his eyebrows and replied indifferently, "He hasn't broken the rules yet, so he's not one of my targets. So, I won't accept this mission. Find someone else." With that, the Nightwalker turned around and left. Xia Zhilong hurriedly stood up and said, "Dark Walker, since he's going to die anyway, why don't you give him a quick death? As for whether or not he's your target, that's not important." "Of course it's important. The weapon in my hand only kills those within its range. That's been my principle for so many years. I've never broken it, the Nightwalker said firmly. Even if I break the rules once for this emperor, I can break the rules 10 times for you in the future, Xia Zhilong said in a low voice. The Nightwalker still shook his head and said indifferently, You don't understand. Find someone else. If one day he becomes my target, you don't need to pay me a single dime. I'll kill him without hesitation. With that, the Nightwalker resolutely left the courtyard. Xia Zhilong took a deep breath and clenched his fists. The haze in his eyes was especially thick. In this world, only the Nightwalker and Fan Yin couldn't control him. Now there was another Yi Qinghan. This had seriously infuriated Xia Zhilong. If I want to kill someone, no one can escape. That includes you, Nightwalker. You've repeatedly rejected this emperor's good intentions and recruitment. You must be tired of living, Xia Zhilong said with a muffled snort. Yi Qinghan found Gu Qingyu and Jiang Jingtian, and said many good words for Jian Shisan. Only then did revered Lord Sword's expression improve. Where are you living now? Revered Lord Sword asked in a dignified manner. We're living in a cave. Revered Lord, do you want to arrange a better courtyard for us to live alone? Yi Qinghan immediately took advantage of the situation and asked. Revered Lord Sword suddenly widened his eyes and said in a muffled voice, Young people should endure more hardships. As the saying goes, when one is strong and healthy, one must first work one's muscles and bones. You're all used to enjoying life, so you should learn to endure hardship. Just live in the cave. If you don't have a room, just say it. Yi Qinghan shook his head and looked at the periphery of the Sword Principal sect. Many temporary buildings had been built outside the sect, which seriously affected the beauty of the Sword Principal sect. It was normal that revered Lord Sword didn't want to build a house for a few juniors, so he didn't say much and left the Sword Principal sect with Gu Qingyu and the others. Sword 13 had a bitter smile on his face. Now that he was the holy son of a holy land, he had clearly become a punching bag for others to vent their anger on. Everything had to be done with him to show off their might, to give others a show of strength, but there was not a single good thing that happened. The 4 of them walked all the way and came to the elixir pavilion to buy a large number of high-level sacred elixirs to replenish their storage rings. A day passed just like that. The sky was about to turn dark, so they returned to the valley. In the evening, the night was alluring, and the moonlight shone on the mortal world. Fan Yin walked into the city and looked at Yi Qinghan's living environment. Not only did she not feel sorry for him, but she was also gloating. Young people are different. They know how to enjoy life. Such a fairyland with mountains, water, and moonlight. It's much better than my room. Fan Yin laughed crisply. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and snorted. Senior sister, do you want to sleep with me in this fairyland and experience the various forms of life? That's not necessary. Fan Yin signaled Yi Qinghan with her eyes, and the 2 of them entered the cave together. She then said, Be careful tonight. Xia Zhilong has found a dark walker. I guess he might attack you. Whoosh, Yi Qinghan waved his hand and sealed the cave with a boundary. He directly pressed Fan Yin under his body and smiled evilly. Senior sister, will you stay and fight the enemy with me? Smack. Fan Yin reached out and slapped Yi Qinghan's perverted hands away. She snorted. What time is it now? You still can't act properly? Yi Qinghan grinned. As far as I know, the Dark Walker won't attack me. Either Xia Zhilong attacks personally, or I'll be safe tonight. Why? Fan Yin asked in surprise. It's hard to explain. Anyway, I know that I'm not the Dark Walker's target. If Xia Zhilong attacks personally, he'll definitely choose to assassinate me. Now that we're in the middle of a grand ceremony, he won't look for trouble. Once the assassination fails, he'll automatically retreat. He won't attack by force. So if you and I work together, he'll retreat. Yi Qinghan explained. Fan Yin was a little suspicious. She didn't seem to know much about the Dark Walker. She only knew that the Dark Walker was in existence with a single lineage. Yi Qinghan pressed Fan Yin under his body and looked down at her. The moonlight spilled into the cave, making it hazy but adding to the beauty. Chapter 2007. Yi Qinghan still wanted to ask for more, but he was kicked out by Fan Yin. You still want to mess around at a time like this? My reputation is going to be ruined by you. If Xia Zhilong blocks the two of us in the cave today, I don't want to live anymore, Fan Yin said unhappily. Hey, senior sister, if he dares to enter the cave, I will break his bones, Yi Qinghan said confidently. Xia Zhilong was definitely no match for him in terms of physical strength in such a narrow space. Don't talk nonsense. I can't let him see me here with you. Otherwise, if it spreads out, where will the face of my sky-reaching school be? Fan Yin angrily rebuked. Since you dare to guarantee that the Nightwalker won't take action, I will leave first. If you are killed by Xia Zhilong, you can only say that you are destined to die early. You can't blame others. Senior sister, are you just going to watch me fight against Xia Zhilong alone? If he has a background, won't I die in vain? Yi Qinghan looked at Fan Yin pitifully and said. Fan Yin had no choice but to take out a red thread. It was her natal magic treasure, the pulling thread. Give me your hand, Fan Yin said angrily. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand. Fan Yin tied the thread on his wrist, tied it into a beautiful bow, and hid it in the cuff. Don't expose it first. If you catch Xia Zhilong off guard, you may be able to lock him. Even if you can't succeed, when he sees the pulling thread in your hand, he will have to retreat. Because once the pulling thread is triggered, it will fully recover. At that time, more than one eternal expert will be alarmed. Fan Yin whispered, the rest is up to you. If you are killed like this, it means that you should have died long ago. I am leaving. After saying that, Fan Yin turned around and left the cave, leaving Yi Qinghan alone in the cave with a wry smile. The valley at night was not quiet, because many people were camping around, waiting for the celebration to see the sage. It was only in the wee hours of the morning that a deathly stillness ensued. Yi Qinghan was holding his flute with several pills in his mouth. He was on high alert because his opponent was the strongest of the younger generation. Even Fan Yin was no match for him. The night before dawn was so quiet that even the sound of the wind could be heard clearly. Hum! Suddenly, the bamboo flute trembled. It was very slight, as if it was just an illusion. However, Yi Qinghan knew that this was absolutely not an illusion. This flute was specially refined by the Green Lotus Sword Immortal, and had been used as a sacrifice for countless years. It had long since gained sentience, just like the wooden sword. Once it gave off a warning, there would be danger. Yi Qinghan's soul wandered in all directions, but he couldn't find the enemy. Yi Qinghan blew his flute and the low melodious sound spread out in all directions. It pierced through the enchantment and spread to all the big caves, covering a radius of 10 miles. Every blade of grass and every tree was transmitted back. Why are you playing the flute in the middle of the night? Are you crazy? Some people kept cursing, but they knew that Yi Qinghan was too strong, so they didn't dare to go forward and question him. The sound of the flute changed from melodious to violent and murderous. It was as if there was an ambush on all sides, with murderous intent everywhere. No one dared to leave the cave, and they all stayed obediently in the cave. However, after the sound of the flute spread for a long time, they still couldn't find Xia Zhilong's location. If Xia Zhilong wanted to hide himself, no one could find him except for the top upper-level cultivators. The sound of the flute continued to rise and fall, spreading to every corner. Even the image of a rock was transmitted back. Only Xia Zhilong's image was not transmitted back. But at this moment, Yi Qinghan was 100% certain that someone was watching his cave. At the lake on the left side of the valley, a person stood on the water's surface. He didn't have any aura, and even his voice couldn't be heard. He was faintly discernible and extremely terrifying. This person was dressed in black, with a loose robe covering his entire body and even his face. Only a pair of bright eyes were staring at Yi Qinghan's cave. That pair of eyes was especially cold, without any aura of life, like the stars in the sky. If Yi Qinghan walked out of the cave, he would be able to find him and confirm that this person was Xia Jilong. Xia Jilong had a short sword hidden in his sleeve. He didn't even have a scabbard. He could strike at any time to kill with one strike. Yi Qinghan didn't walk out of the cave, and Xia Jilong didn't take the risk to enter the cave to assassinate him. Both sides waited silently. Whoever couldn't hold back first would definitely lose. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The sound of a few poisonous snakes slithering broke the coldness of the flute sound, making it even more terrifying. Hundreds of vines swam out of Yi Qinghan's cave and surrounded the cave, then extended in all directions. In the blink of an eye, they covered half of the valley. Splash! Xia Jilong's body gradually sank into the water, leaving only a pair of eyes outside. Gu Qingyu, Jiang Jingtian, and Jian Shisan's cave all took out their weapons and leaned against the stone wall. Their bodies were bent, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Yi Qinghan's flute sound didn't die out. It had already notified them that there was killing intent. The sound of the flute was terrifying. Finally, someone couldn't hold back and rushed out of the cave, shouting, "Yi Qinghan, you can't run amok just because you're strong. It's the middle of the night. Can't you let people rest?" Whoosh! One of the star-twining vines seized the air, shattered the void, and directly locked onto that person's throat, almost piercing through his body. However, it quickly loosened because he wasn't Xia Jilong. That person was so frightened by the reaction of the star-twining vine that his legs went soft. He hurriedly retreated into the cave. His face was pale and his breathing was rapid. He was almost scared out of his wit. The little girl and her brother, who lived on the right side of Yi Qinghan, also had some panic in their eyes because tonight was too abnormal. The little girl looked at her brother and asked in fear, "Brother, what are they doing?" Her brother was in the middle level after all, so he still had this bit of patience. He hurriedly pulled the little girl and said, "Don't go out. It's dangerous outside." Time passed slowly. The night covered the stars and the full moon. One couldn't even see one's own fingers. Xia Jilong slowly flew out of the water without a single drop of water on him. He flashed a few times and appeared opposite Yi Qinghan's cave. He crouched behind a rock in the valley and took out a cloud crossbow. This kind of crossbow could kill an upper-level cultivator and destroy the entire valley. "Since you don't want to come out, then I'll let you die in the cave. Consider it a burial for you, so as to avoid your corpse lying in the wilderness." Xia Jilong snorted coldly. He waved his hand and a gloomy crossbow arrow appeared. He placed it on the cloud crossbow, and killing intent leaked out. Finally, he couldn't hide anymore. Yi Qinghan's pores exploded. He knew that if he didn't go out, he would definitely die in the cave. Therefore, he didn't think too much. He blasted a palm through the barrier and slapped toward Xia Jilong, who was above the valley. Boom! Flames covered Xia Jilong's location. Yi Qinghan used stellar transposition and left the cave. He shouted, "Everyone, get out of the cave!" Whoosh! Jian Shisan, Gu Qingyu, and the others quickly rushed out and threw their weapons. They smashed through the mountain rocks and rushed toward Xia Jilong. However, Xia Jilong seemed to have already known Yi Qinghan's actions. The moment Yi Qinghan appeared, he put away the cloud crossbow. A short sword appeared in his sleeve, and he took the air. The short sword tore through the void and attacked Yi Qinghan's throat. Chapter 2008. Xia Jilong moved like a ferocious tiger and lightning. The sword in his hand shook the great Tao of heaven and earth. The darkness was torn apart, and the sun and moon appeared at the same time. This sword could destroy a transcendent upper-plane cultivator. In the blink of an eye, It was about to pierce Yi Qinghan's throat. Yi Qinghan's reaction was fast. His body twisted and his footsteps intertwined. He retreated slightly, and the Rui bell appeared in his palm. It expanded infinitely and enveloped Xia Zhilong within. Boom! The Rui bell flipped the sky and enveloped half of the valley. It directly pressed down, and the ground shook as the valley collapsed. Ring! Whoosh! However, Xia Zhilong was not suppressed by the Rui bell. Instead, he appeared behind Yi Qinghan and stabbed his sword at the back of Yi Qinghan's neck. Boom! Boom! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stomped his foot, and his body soared into the clouds. However, he felt a chill on his back. The sword had already torn through his divine robes and touched his skin. His holy golden body felt a burning pain. Even Shadowless couldn't escape from Xia Zhilong's 9 transformations of the stars. Seeing that his neck was about to be pierced, Yi Qinghan roared and kicked out with his right foot. He reached behind him and grabbed the dagger. Both sides were injured, but Xia Zhilong didn't seem to care about his kick. He stabbed out with his dagger, and sword qi filled the air. The law of destruction enveloped Yi Qinghan. At that moment, the string on Yi Qinghan's wrist transformed into a myriad of transformations. It enveloped the dagger and then shot towards Xia Zhilong, wanting to bind him as well. Although Yi Qinghan's hand grabbed the dagger, it was torn apart by the sharp sword qi. The flesh in his palm turned into flesh and blood, leaving only his bones. Like a divine weapon, even the dagger could not quickly destroy them. However, the tearing pain from his soul made him roar in anger. It shook the mountains and rivers, and alarmed the masters from thousands of miles away. Boom! Yi Qinghan's right hand was crippled, but that kick was real. It landed on Xia Zhilong's lower abdomen. Xia Zhilong forcibly resisted. He wanted to continue stabbing and take down Yi Qinghan in one fell swoop. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! At this moment, after the string wrapped around the dagger, it pressed down on Xia Zhilong's wrist. He was so frightened that he hurriedly let go of the dagger. He didn't even have time to retrieve the dagger as he immediately fled thousands of miles away. If he didn't leave now, it would be too late. The sword sovereign of the Sword Dao Holy Land was flying over with his sword. Yi Qinghan let out a long sigh of relief. Because the binding thread had bound the dagger and turned it into a blunt sword, its lethality had been greatly reduced. It had reduced the pressure on Yi Qinghan by more than half. Otherwise, the dagger would have definitely pierced through his neck. Who dares to cause trouble at my holy land's grand ceremony? Honorable swordsman unsheathed his master god's sword. 10,000 swords returned to origin. He appeared near Yi Qinghan like a sword god. Seeing Xia Zhilong flee, his eyes flashed, but he did not chase after him. Yi Qinghan's bloody right arm was a mess of flesh and blood. Especially his 5 fingers, they were all bone-white. It was extremely frightening. Just one sword was enough to injure Yi Qinghan to this extent. If it was someone from the younger generation, that person's identity could almost be confirmed. However, no one dared to guarantee that this was done by someone from the younger generation. Even though Honorable Swordsman had seen Xia Zhilong's back, he couldn't say anything without concrete evidence. Honorable Swordsman looked at Yi Qinghan gripping the dagger with a ferocious expression. He asked in a low voice, "Are you all right?" Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. His 5 fingers were bathed in divine light. His flesh wriggled and order reassembled. Even a paragon saint's body couldn't recover quickly. Xia Zhilong's sword energy contained too many profound mysteries of destruction. It would take a long time for him to recover. "I'm fine. I won't die yet." Yi Qinghan endured the pain and retracted the string. He gripped the dagger tightly in his hand. The divine sword whistled, wanting to leave him and return to Xia Zhilong's side. However, Yi Qinghan wouldn't allow it. He forcibly restrained it, took out his bamboo flute, and used his soul to attack the dagger's soul, wiping out Xia Zhilong's spiritual consciousness. In the distance, Xia Zhilong clutched his abdomen. Yi Qinghan's kick wasn't light. He had also endured the loss of blood flow and forcefully attacked. Now, he was indeed injured. However, if it weren't for the string, he could have easily destroyed Yi Qinghan. That damned Fanine! How dare he wrap the string around his wrist and ruin my plan? Xia Zhilong held his abdomen with his large hand, his eyes filled with unwillingness. Suddenly, his head exploded, and he spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Pfft! This time, Xia Zhilong was truly enraged. This time, he wasn't injured physically, but his soul. The spiritual consciousness he had planted in the dagger had been forcefully wiped out. It was equivalent to having a piece of his soul torn apart. Although it wasn't much, it was still a soul. Damn it! Was it Supremacy Sword who helped him wipe out the spiritual consciousness in the dagger? His soul can't be stronger than mine. Xia Zhilong roared indignantly. His body trembled and he nearly collapsed. Xia Zhilong's spiritual consciousness was in a daze. He endured his injuries and adjusted himself for a moment. After changing his clothes, he quickly entered the holy city and took advantage of the chaos to enter the Sword Dao sect again. Xian Xiu quickly brought him back to the courtyard where he lived alone. When he saw Xia Zhilong's pale face and multiple injuries, he was immediately alarmed. "Your Highness, how did you suffer such serious injuries?" "That damned Fanine," cough cough, wrapped the string around his wrist. "Otherwise, I would have already killed Yi Qinghan. Now, not only did I fail to kill him, but I was also kicked by him. The dagger was also entangled by the string and became his spoils of war. I didn't have time to withdraw my spiritual consciousness, and it was actually forcefully wiped out by Supremacy Sword," Xia Zhilong said with a pale face as he lay on the chair. "The dagger won't expose your identity, right?" Xian Xiu asked in alarm. Xia Zhilong shook his head and waved his hand. "No, go prepare a bucket of hot water for me. Get some soul-related medicinal herbs and pills. I need to recuperate." At this moment, Yi Qinghan was also in extreme pain. If it weren't for the string, he would have died without a doubt. Only now did he understand how big the gap between him and Xia Zhilong was. What a powerful Xia Zhilong! As expected of the #1 expert of the younger generation, Yi Qinghan muttered to himself as he lay on the ground and leaned against a rock. Supremacy Sword said apologetically, "Sect Master Yi, I'm truly sorry. Someone actually destroyed the atmosphere of the ceremony right under my nose and even injured you. Stabilize your qi and blood. I'll help you wipe away the destructive aura on your wounds." Yi Qinghan didn't stand on ceremony. He allowed Supremacy Sword to wipe away the destructive aura and profound mysteries on his wounds. Pure sword wounds healed much faster. 4 hours later, Yi Qinghan's complexion looked much better. When he opened his eyes, he discovered that it was already dawn. Supremacy Sword, Fanine, and Gu Qingyu were all standing guard around him. "Sect Master Yi, do you know who secretly attacked and destroyed the harmony of the ceremony? If you tell me, I'll definitely give you justice," Supremacy Sword said coldly. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and looked at Fanine. However, he discovered that she was constantly shaking her head, indicating that he shouldn't speak carelessly. After all, this matter involved Xia Zhilong. There was absolutely no benefit in accusing him without any evidence. "Senior, I also don't know who did it. However, he didn't gain anything from it. I won't pursue this matter any further." "Let him be," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Chapter 2009. Yi Qinghan refused to reveal the identity of the assailant, so Sword Lord had to give up. In fact, he didn't want to continue investigating. Since the assailant dared to attack Yi Qinghan at this time and was so powerful, his identity was already on the verge of being revealed. Continuing to investigate would only make the ceremony more embarrassing. After Sword Lord left, Yi Qinghan went into seclusion to adjust his breath. For half a year, the world was peaceful, and the murderous aura was washed away by joy. Half a year later, the streets were empty. The huge holy city, and even hundreds of miles outside the holy city, was occupied by powerhouses. Countless masters of the outside world gathered, and all forces had arrived. The Sword Dao sect began to arrange. Several mountains outside the city were raised, a large plain was emptied, and 3,600 chairs were placed. Those who had seats were all highly respected figures of the outside world. The rest had to stand and watch the might of the sage from afar. More than 30 eternal sovereigns, except for the sacred lord of the Central Earth Holy Empire, the sect master of the sky-reaching cult and the sacred lord of the Oshi Holy Land, as well as the demon sect master who had disappeared for countless years, all the eternal sovereigns in the world had appeared. This group of eternal saints sat at the front, surrounding Chess Venerable with a solemn and dignified face. Eternal saints were rarely seen in a million years, and now they had seen so many of them at once. Almost all the eternal sovereigns in the world had gathered. This was definitely a grand occasion. The Sword Dao great eternal sovereigns smiled from ear to ear. The Sword Dao holy city was shrouded in an awe-inspiring aura. Auspicious signs appeared, and the sky was clear with white clouds. Patriarchs of the 100 great clans, please come forward to meet the eternal saints. Congratulations to Chess Sage for breaking through to the eternal realm. May the eternal saints of the world live forever and have boundless longevity. Whoosh! The 100 great clans' patriarchs seemed to have lined up long ago. At this moment, they stepped forward with honor on their faces. They came to the front, knelt on one knee, and said respectfully, "The 100 great clans and trillions of living beings in their territories greet the eternal saints. Congratulations to Chess Sage for entering the Tao with chess and breaking through to the eternal realm. Well, get up. Everyone, don't be restrained. Today is a day of celebration, no trifles." The Sword Dao great eternal sovereign got up and raised his hand. The 100 great clans' strongest masters couldn't control their bodies and stood up involuntarily. The wealth of the 100 great clans was comparable to that of a nation, but without an eternal being, their status was ultimately inferior to a sacred land. When they saw an eternal being, they had to kneel on one knee and greet them. Sect masters of the 3,000-strong sects, please come forward to meet the eternal saint. Congratulations to the Chess Saint for breaking through to the eternal realm. Whoosh! The patriarchs of the 3,000 sects could be said to be the overlords of their respective territories. Even now, when they met the saint lords of the various saint lands, they still had to kneel down in front of them. They were like the imperial court, not daring to slack off in the slightest. 3,000 powerful sects and trillions of living beings pay their respects to the eternal saint. Congratulations to the Chess Saint for entering the Tao with chess and breaking through the eternal realm. May all the saints in the world have eternal life and have boundless longevity. At this moment, the Chess Venerate stood up with a gentle look on his face. With a wave of his hand, he mobilized the power of the earth and lifted everyone up. His deep voice reverberated through the clouds. "Thank you for coming, everyone. Please stand up, there's no need to be so restrained." "Thank you, Sage." The sect masters of the 3,000-strong sects were all excited. For many of them, this was their first time seeing an eternal sovereign. How could they not be excited to see so many of them? "Take a seat," the chess sovereign said plainly. The patriarchs of the 100 major clans and the 3,000-strong sects took their seats, occupying 3,100 seats at once. In other words, with so many experts in the world, only 500 seats were up for grabs. Whoever could sit down today would definitely be famous, and the world would know in an instant. At this moment, Sword Venerate looked around and said in a deep voice, "I invite all the young legendary experts of the same level to come and meet the sage. Let's see the glory of breaking through the eternal realm and be tainted by the sage's opportunity. Legendary experts were really rare. Even if they were divided into 3, 6, and 9 grades, there were only a few 9th-grade true disciples. There were even fewer of them than eternal sovereigns. The first to stand up was naturally Xia Zhilong. Xia Zhilong was dressed in a dragon robe and had an imposing appearance. He was naturally the strongest man of the younger generation, an existence that could make all the beauties in the world fall in love with him. At this moment, he had a dignified look on his face. He represented the Saint Empire's Saint Lord personally. Junior Xia Zhilong represents the Patriarch to congratulate the chess saint for entering the Tao with chess and achieving eternal realm. The Patriarch ordered this junior to send a set of purple gold sacred chess to congratulate the sage. He hopes that the sage can take another step forward and be on par with the heavens. Xia Zhilong did not kneel. Instead, he bowed and presented a brocade box with both hands. It was sealed by the eternal power and could not be opened unless one was an eternal sovereign. Everyone in the world was shocked. They did not expect the Saint Empire's Saint Lord to be so generous. He actually gave an eternal sacred artifact as a gift. The purple gold sacred chess was named with the word saint, which was enough to indicate its identity. At this moment, even the other eternal sovereigns' faces changed. They did not expect the Saint Empire's Saint Lord to be so generous. How was this a big gift? This was simply a grand gift. Chess Venerate Saint's face was filled with joy. He did not care if it was a sacred artifact or not. He only cared that this chess piece was something he liked. Ha ha ha! Lord Saint Lord is too polite. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, thank him for me. I accept his good intentions. When I have time in the future, I will personally visit Lord Saint Lord and ask him for advice. Chess Venerate Saint waved his hand and took away the brocade box in Xia Zhilong's hand. Xia Zhilong's face was filled with joy and excitement. He knelt on one knee and said, "Then I will first welcome the sage. My Patriarch will definitely be very happy." Ha ha ha, Crown Prince is too polite. It is my honor to be able to meet the Saint Empire's Saint Lord. Chess Venerate Saint said truthfully. This sentence was not false. The Saint Empire's Saint Lord was not someone anyone could meet. Even if an eternal saint came personally, they might not be able to meet him. More than one person had been rejected. My Patriarch asked me to pass a message. As long as the chess saint wants to meet him, he can go to the Saint Empire at any time. When the time comes, he will welcome you with open arms. Xia Zhilong said seriously. This sentence was enough to give Chess Venerate Saint face. Naturally, it was not given by Xia Zhilong, but by the Saint Empire's Saint Lord. No one in the world could make the Saint Empire's Saint Lord say such words, but Chess Venerate Saint did it. He had just broken through to the Saint realm. The other Saint Lords' faces changed slightly, but they did not say anything. They pretended not to hear and treated it as a courtesy. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, sit down. Chess Venerate Saint said with a smile. Thank you, sage, for giving me a seat. Xia Zhilong bowed and retreated. Sitting below more than 30 Saint Lords, he could be considered the number 1 person below the saint. His status was higher than the patriarchs of the rich and powerful sections. Following closely behind was Fan Yin. She was dressed very conservatively and formally today. She no longer had the sloppy aura from before. She was like a peerless fairy, so well behaved that Yi Qinghan felt a little uncomfortable just looking at her from afar. The sky-reaching cult's Fan Yin is here to congratulate the chess saint on breaking through to the eternal realm. I specially offer you a set of immortal materials. I hope the chess saint can use it. Fan Yin's voice was like the sound of nature. It was extremely penetrating, causing the eyes of all the young men in the world to shine. Immediately, Fan Yin handed over a storage ring with both hands. It was definitely a high-grade storage ring. Even the patriarchs of powerful sects could not buy a storage ring like this. It was something only an eternal saint could use. The gifts of the two old monsters were shocking. Not to mention the immortal materials of the sky-reaching cult, just this storage ring alone was priceless. Chapter 2010. Immortal materials were actually materials for eternal sacred weapons. They were extremely scarce in the world, and even eternal sovereigns had to search for them for a long time before they could gather enough to forge their desired weapon. Compared to the prime of Tongtian and Holy Empire's Holy Lord, most of the eternal sovereigns were juniors. However, they had never received such preferential treatment. Back then, when they had broken through, they had only sent people to congratulate them and give them some ordinary materials or holy herbs. They had never received any immortal materials. There was no harm without comparison. Chess Saint had just advanced, and the Holy Empire's Holy Emperor had sent the Crown Prince to deliver a sacred weapon. The Prime of Tongtian had also sent immortal materials. Who wouldn't be jealous? The Sword Dao Grand Eternal Sage had a strange expression on his face. However, he was naturally happy that the other party had sent immortal materials, even if they did not belong to him. Chess Saint stood up and helped Fanine up. He laughed heartily and said, "Thank you so much, Prime of Tongtian. How can I accept this?" Fanine said respectfully, "The Chess Saint has cultivated for countless years, and no one in the world knows about it. Now that he has achieved the Tao, thousands of heroes will pay homage to him. This is something that I can learn from. My family has told me that the Chess Saint's demeanor is something that the world can learn from. Therefore, I have sent you immortal materials and my master's most sincere blessings." "Thank you for your praise, great sage. I dare not accept it. Fairy Fanine, please take a seat." Chess Saint took the storage ring and gestured. Fanine sat on the right side of Chess Saint. She was also below the sage and sat opposite Xia Jilong. Xia Jilong and Fanine looked at each other, and a glint flashed in their eyes. However, they were very polite on the surface, and there was no trace of hostility in them. In the distance, a few elders from the Oshi sacred ground found Yar Saint and whispered in his ear, "The Supreme Holy Emperor has asked us to give you a congratulatory gift. This jade bottle contains the holy immortal water. It is the best holy item for making immortal medicines. Our Oshi sacred ground only produces 2 tails every 10,000 years. This is 1 caddy." Yar Saint's expression changed slightly. This was the accumulation of the Oshi Holy Land for 50,000 years. He did not expect the Holy Emperor to be so generous. Yar Saint took the jade bottle and walked past the crowd. She knelt down on one knee and raised both hands to hold the jade bottle. She respectfully said, "Oshi Holy Land Emperor Saintus, Yar Saint, is under the orders of my ancestors to congratulate the Chess Sage for breaking through the eternal realm and comprehending the supreme Tao. I hereby present the Oshi Holy Land's holy immortal water. This is the heritage of my holy land, and it can only be produced once every 10,000 years. Not only can it be used to create immortal pills, but it can also prolong one's life and brew immortal wine." Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Holy immortal water, to an eternal sovereign, was even more precious than immortal materials. Could almost bring the dead back to life. Many eternal sovereigns felt uncomfortable. Which eternal sovereign in the world could receive such congratulations when they advanced? The 3 great sages of the older generation had sent their closest relatives to deliver the most precious treasures. This was absolutely unprecedented. The Chess Saint personally came down from the high platform and took the jade bottle with both hands. He personally helped Yar Saint up and said with a smile, "Thank you, Holy Emperor, for giving me such honor. I am very grateful. Fairy Yar Saint, please take a seat." Yar Saint bowed to the other eternal sovereigns with Eastern etiquette and then sat beside Fanine. After that, the true teachings of the other sacred grounds came forward and knelt down to pay their respects to Chess sovereign saint and their masters. However, since their masters were present, they simply knelt down and paid their respects. Naturally, their gifts were presented by their masters themselves. Gong Wushing and the thousand-hand Buddha were among the crowd of true disciples. They did not sit on the high platform but sat in the second row behind the patriarchs of the 100 great clans. Their positions were absolutely revered. Immediately after, the Nightwalker came out from the crowd and knelt on the high platform with the most respectful etiquette. It was surprising. This etiquette was usually used when a child returned to his hometown in glory and paid respects to a loving father, mother, or the most respected elders. What's the relationship between the Nightwalker and the Chess Sage? At this moment, even the other eternal sovereigns were curious, let alone the people of the world. Sigh, the Chess Sage sighed and got up to help the Nightwalker up. He said faintly, "This old man can't bear such etiquette. Get up. This junior doesn't have any precious immortal ingredients or immortal herbs to congratulate the sage. I can only use this etiquette to express my respect and gratitude to you. I hope the sage can take another step forward and become a flying immortal." The Nightwalker bowed again and said. The Chess Sage shook his head and said in a kind and deep voice, "Let's not talk about such illusory things. Sit down. This old man is very happy that you can come. Go to the seat beside this old man and sit down." There was a seat to the right of the Chess Sage. Although it was a little short, it was empty. Everyone thought it was an eternal sovereign's seat. They did not expect the Chess Sage to leave it for the Nightwalker. After the Nightwalker bowed to the other saints, he quickly came to the chair beside the Chess Sage and sat down. All the legendary experts had come. There were also some who had never been seen or appeared before, but they were indeed at the legendary level. There were even 2 people whose cultivation levels were close to Xia Zhilong's. They were definitely not inferior to Fan Yin's. They were not famous, and some eternal sovereigns had never seen or even heard of them. Their attitude towards the Chess Sage was unusually respectful. Everyone waited quietly for the following etiquette, but Sword Supremacy and the Chess Sage did not announce the next person to meet the Chess Sage. Instead, they stared at Yi Qinghan because Yi Qinghan's strength was indeed at the legendary level. Yi Qinghan scratched his head. He did not want to run over to meet the Chess Sage in a high-profile manner, but when he saw that the Chess Sage's eyes were fixed on him, he could only step forward and greet the Chess Sage with half the etiquette of a master. He knelt on one knee and said, "Yi Qinghan from the Crazy Sect greets the Chess Sage. I don't have any immortal materials or treasures, but I sincerely wish you a long life and that your chess skills will improve. You can use the heavens as your board and the stars as your chess pieces to awe the world." Many people did not know that Yi Qinghan was at the legendary stage. There was a commotion below the stage. Even the leaders of the powerful sects and wealthy families frowned. This was because once Yi Qinghan was at the legendary stage, his seat would definitely be in front. He would benefit much more than the older generation. Forget it. It's good that you're here. Take a seat yourself, the Chess Sage said with a faint smile. Choose a seat himself? Everyone was shocked. What kind of rule was this? On what basis? Up until now, apart from the Nightwalker's special position, everyone else had been given a seat. How could they choose a seat themselves? It was obvious from the Nightwalker's etiquette that his relationship with the Chess Sage was not ordinary. What was going on with Yi Qinghan, who had suddenly appeared? Whoosh! The eyes of all the heroes in the world stared at Yi Qinghan, causing him to feel a chill down his spine. At that moment, the corners of Xia Zhilong's mouth curled up into a sneer. He suddenly stood up and said in all seriousness, "Chess Sage, I would like to present you with a gift." The Chess Sage was stunned as he asked, "What gift?" Xia Zhilong looked at Yi Qinghan, making Yi Qinghan's hair stand on end. He suddenly had an ominous feeling. Chapter 2011. When Xia Zhilong looked at Yi Qinghan, many people were at a loss. Only Yi Qinghan had goosebumps as he knew that Xia Zhilong was up to no good. Indeed, Xia Zhilong smiled, cupped his fists and bowed. This matter shouldn't be said by little Huang. From the looks of it, the relationship between the saint and sect master Yi should be very good. If I were to say it, it might hurt the saint's feelings. Actually, the saint is obsessed with chess and loves chessboards and chess pieces. Is there a better chessboard in this world than the star chessboard? This chessboard has disappeared for countless years and now it has reappeared in the world. Furthermore, it is in the hands of Sect Master Yi. From Sect Master Yi's expression, it seems like you are not willing to take it out to show respect to the chess saint. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and almost exploded. He clenched his fists and wanted to beat Xia Zhilong's smiling face into a pig's head. Who in the world didn't know about the star chessboard? That was the weapon of the Zenith Heaven Saint. Back in the day, the Zenith Heaven Saint was an existence that could fight with the Saint Empire's saint. The power of the star chessboard was known to all saints. It was a chessboard that gathered all the stars in the world. Even the chess saint, with his state of mind, wanted to obtain it. F***ck your mother. How dare you trick me? Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and growled. At this moment, he didn't need to lift his head to know that all the overlords in the world were staring at him. Even the chess saint was looking at him. The Son of War was the clearest that the star chessboard could be in the hands of that little girl. Xia Zhilong wasn't spouting nonsense. However, now that Xia Zhilong had said it, no matter how good the chess saint's temper was, he would be disgusted by Yi Qinghan. However, the chess saint had a calm expression. He smiled and said, "Little Yi, when you say it, if it is really in your hands, I would like to comprehend it. I will definitely not take your chessboard." Yi Qinghan was hesitating. If he admitted it, it would be equivalent to exposing Shui Lin's identity. However, if he did not admit it, there would definitely be animosity between him and chess supremacy. After a long time, Yi Qinghan bowed and replied, "Truth be told, this junior has indeed seen the star chessboard, but that plaything isn't mine. I can't offer it to Buddha with borrowed flowers. After all, I care about my reputation. How can I let someone else use an eternal sacred artifact to curry favor with someone else? That would be too shameless. Of course, I'm not saying that the Nine Dragons Crown Prince is shameless. Everyone, please don't misunderstand. The Nine Dragons Crown Prince cares about his reputation the most." Xia Zhilong's face turned red as he glared at Yi Qinghan. He almost couldn't hold it in. Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Zhilong's angry face and sneered inwardly. They were just hurting each other. He then said, but looking at the Crown Prince's expression, he must want to borrow his ancestor's flower to offer to Buddha. I overestimated the Crown Prince's pride. So, I'll tell you my gift now. Although the star chessboard isn't mine, if the Venerable wants to comprehend it, this junior is confident that I can lend it to Saint to comprehend it for a few years. This junior will definitely not do such a thing. Fan Yin couldn't hold it in and laughed out loud. The scene became even more awkward. Everyone looked at each other. Even the Eternal Sovereigns looked embarrassed. They were really anxious for Xia Zhilong. This slap in the face was too heavy. The anger on the faces of the Eternal Sovereigns of the Holy Nation's 9 prefectures was self-evident. They clenched their fists and glared coldly at Yi Qinghan. Their killing intent rose. Obviously, their young master had been humiliated. It would be strange if they could hold it in. However, this was not the right place to act out. The blessed Buddha Holy Lord and the Lord of Hell, who had interacted with Yi Qinghan before, looked at Yi Qinghan indifferently. Their eyes flashed with a strange light. The blessed Buddha Holy Lord had a fat head and big ears. He was one size bigger than an ordinary person. He weighed about 300 to 500 jin. He looked like he couldn't even move. His whole body was emitting Buddhist light. He had a smile on his face, which made people feel comfortable looking at him. However, the more Yi Qinghan looked at him, the more disgusted he became. The Lord of Hell was a little cold and thin. His face was old, and there was a haze in his eyes. His gaze was terrifying, and no one dared to look directly at him. The holy lords of the other holy lands had never seen Yi Qinghan before. Now, their mouths were wide open in shock. They didn't expect Yi Qinghan to fight with the crown prince of the number 1 faction in public. Moreover, he didn't give any face. This was a slap in the face. Xia Zhilong was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He had only brought the purple gold sacred chest this time. He really didn't have any other supreme treasures, so he couldn't find a reason to refute Yi Qinghan's mockery. Fan Yin covered her stomach with one hand and her mouth with the other. She looked like she was laughing secretly. In fact, it was exaggerated. Everyone saw it clearly. The chess saint obviously didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so sharp and make the atmosphere so awkward. He hurriedly stood up and said, "The 9 Dragons Crown Prince represents the holy lords of the Holy Empire. Naturally, he doesn't need to prepare his own gift. The violet gold sacred chess is already a supreme gift. Little Yi Qinghan, don't mess around." Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a devilish smile. "My apologies, I've misunderstood the Crown Prince. I'm truly envious of the Crown Prince. You have such a good ancestor that you can borrow flowers to present to the Buddha. Commoners like us can only rely on ourselves. Even if we don't have any treasures, we still have to put on a show. Even if you don't want to, you can't fake it." Xia Zhilong took a deep breath. After all, he was the number 1 existence in the world. He quickly reacted and said with a smile, "Who said that I didn't prepare a gift? I'm just a junior. No matter how good the immortal medicine or immortal material is, it won't be able to catch the sage's eye. Therefore, I'm prepared to do it personally. I'm going to congratulate the sage on breaking through the eternal realm. I'm just trying to get a smile from the sage." The chess saint wanted to end the fight between the two quickly, but the blessed Buddha's sacred master took the opportunity to say, "Oh? I'm curious to see what Zhilong has prepared to make us smile." Xia Zhilong smiled confidently. He swung his dragon robe and his aura sword. He looked down at everyone and scanned the surroundings. He said proudly, "I'm the number 2 in the younger generation, but I don't dare to say that I'm number 1. I'm representing the Holy Empire. Today, I'm willing to make a fool of myself in front of the sages and let the sages smile. However, the true disciples of the other holy lands are of high status and power. If they were to embarrass themselves with me, it would be detrimental to the reputation of the true disciples. Although sect leader Yi is the leader of a sect, he's still not a disciple of a sage. I wonder if you can put down your pride and fight with me to liven things up for the sages?" If Xia Zhilong's words were said by someone else, it would definitely be very arrogant. However, when it came from his mouth, it was true. He was going to make a fool of himself just to get a smile from the sage. Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong were clearly trying to sabotage each other and hurt each other. However, who in the world didn't want to see the number 1 expert of the younger generation in action? They all cheered and pushed the atmosphere to the peak. Even if the chess saint wanted to stop them, it was too late. Chapter 2012. Before Chess Venerable Saint and the Eternal Sword Tao Sage could stop them, the King of Hell and the Blessed Buddha Sacred Master took the initiative to ask to watch this special show. Xia Zhilong had made it so clear that he had tricked Yi Qinghan again. The two of them tore into each other in front of everyone, shedding all pretenses of cordiality and making their discord public. Yi Qinghan was already full of anger. Some time ago, he had almost been killed by Xia Zhilong. Now, Xia Zhilong had embarrassed him in front of everyone. He did not know if the chess saint would blame him or not, but now, Xia Zhilong wanted to humiliate him in front of everyone. Since the Crown Prince is willing to put down his pride for a smile from the saints, why should I be afraid? Since the Crown Prince wants to fight, I'll play along, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. This time, even the legendary experts were stunned. Who else among the younger generation could fight with Xia Zhilong other than Fan Yin? Yi Qinghan had appeared out of nowhere. He did not have a saint behind him or a foundation. How could he fight against Xia Zhilong? Fan Yin was also a little anxious. He quickly signaled Yi Qinghan to not act on impulse. However, at this point, no one could stop them. Chess Venerable Saint wanted to stop them, but the King of Hell said in advance, "It's understandable that young people want to play. It's also a good opportunity to let the world see the strength of the young disciples of the sacred ground." The 9 prefecture masters naturally wanted Xia Zhilong to teach Yi Qinghan a lesson, so they all requested to watch the battle. Chess Venerable Saint had no choice but to agree to the battle. However, he said, "Today is a joyous day. The 2 of you are not allowed to use weapons." With the saint's permission, Xia Zhilong's eyes shone brightly. This was the best time to kill Yi Qinghan. As the saying goes, fists and feet have no eyes. Even if he really killed Yi Qinghan would only say that the difference in strength between the 2 of them was too great and that Yi Qinghan was too weak. He would not say that he was bullying others. Yi Qinghan was also angry. He had almost died because of Xia Zhilong's plot some time ago, and he had been tricked again today. He did not know if the chess saint was angry. Now that Xia Zhilong had taken the initiative to challenge him, how could he show his face if he did not fight? "Don't go overboard?" Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong snorted and used rhetorical questions. Clearly, they did not want to stop there. Outside the holy city, there was an empty space of 300 meters. It was originally meant for the common people to have an audience with the saint. Now everyone had retreated. All eyes were on the 2 young experts. Whoosh! The 2 of them stepped into the center of the arena. Chess Supreme drew a circle on the ground and formed a prison. The area of 300 square meters was neither too big nor too small. Divine radiance rose from the ground in all directions, and the ground actually formed the shape of a chessboard. Even if Xia Zhilong and Yi Qinghan were to attack, they wouldn't be able to break this piece of land. Amitba. Today I will be the referee. If one side admits defeat, the performance will end. Everyone is here to liven things up for the chess saint. It's best not to hurt the harmony. The fat blessed Buddha Holy Lord clasped his hands together. His voice was majestic, and it echoed across the sky. He seemed to be hoping that the 2 would not hurt each other. However, Xia Zhilong and Yi Qinghan were both furious. Who would admit defeat? He obviously wanted to borrow Xia Zhilong's hand to destroy Yi Qinghan. The old fox was indeed an old fox. Yi Qinghan looked at the blessed Buddha Holy Lord indifferently. It was impossible to expect him to admit defeat today. With just his physical body and no weapons, what could Xia Zhilong do? Without weapons, it would be good if Xia Zhilong could unleash 40% of his strength. "Lord Yi, please enlighten me." Xia Zhilong clasped his fists and said, "Whoosh!" Yi Qinghan crossed his legs and raised his hands from the ground. Then, he crossed them and spread them out, forming the Taiji opening stance. Smoke and dust rose from the ground. "Crown Prince, please enlighten me." Yi Qinghan's aura was natural. Standing on the ground, he seemed to have the power to reach the heavens. Borrowing the power of the earth and sky, his golden body swam around. His voice was loud like a bell and vast and mighty. He was definitely in the legendary level, and had already reached the 6th level. However, everyone could only see his cultivation level, and not that his golden body was already in the immortal level. Taiji Immortal Code 10-character opening stance. He's the disciple of the omnipotent sage? The eternal sage of the way of the sword and the eternal sage were shocked. They straightened their posture and turned to look at Fan Yin. Fan Yin coughed and shook his head. He's not my master's disciple. I saw that his talent was not bad, so I taught him the 10-character incantation and shadowless cloud. However, this guy did not disgrace me. Although he can't surpass his master, he can still take 300 to 500 moves from the Crown Prince. Fan Yin's voice wasn't soft, and it spread out in all directions. Xia Zhilong's face sank, and he was unable to vent his anger for a long time. If he won this battle, the world would say that he was bullying a junior. After all, he was of the same generation as Fan Yin, and Yi Qinghan was only Fan Yin's in-name disciple. He wasn't even a true disciple, so he was a generation younger. If he lost, he would lose all face. Fan Yin could see that Xia Zhilong was unhappy. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? He took advantage of the situation and said, "Little Yi, since the Crown Prince wants to teach you a few moves, use the 10-character incantation and shadowless cloud that you just learned. Let him teach you. Be careful. Don't hurt the precious body of the Crown Prince. Otherwise, I can't protect you." Xia Zhilong took a deep breath and almost couldn't breathe. He clenched his iron fist, and his breath became unstable. His eyes were burning with anger. "Fan Yin, you're clearly saying that I bullied your disciple. Today, I'll have to trouble you to come out personally. You master and disciple together. If you can win against this emperor, I'll retreat." Xia Zhilong said coldly, "Moreover, don't try to confuse others. Others don't know, but I know that Sect Master Yi has always called you senior sister. You two are of the same generation. How did he become your disciple? If you're afraid of losing, then don't come out. It's best if you hide in a woman's embrace. Don't come out and make a fool of yourself." The last sentence was obviously directed at Yi Qinghan. When Su, Daoist Juji, and Reverend Wanhong, who were sitting not far away, looked at each other and reminded, "Little junior sister, don't play with fire. If you fall out with the Crown Prince in this kind of situation, it will affect the relationship between the Holy Empire and the Sky-reaching Church." Everyone felt the smell of gunpowder. The two Holy Lands had always had a good relationship, but now there was a smell of gunpowder. This made some Holy Lands happy, but others worried. Yi Qinghan suddenly dispersed the starting gesture of the 10-word chant and said indifferently, "I've learned a lot in my life, and I don't have anything good to show. However, I don't want to lose face for senior sister Fan Yin. I don't think I can borrow the power of the Crown Prince. Therefore, I'll use all I've learned in my life to fight with the Crown Prince. Whether I win or lose, it's all to congratulate the saint." Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's aura fluctuated, and his battle intent soared. Blue demon fire covered his body, and the surrounding temperature suddenly rose. The air was filled with a burnt smell. Boom! Yi Qinghan's veins bulged, and his absolute saint body erupted. His saint blood boiled, and the untraceable cloud under his feet suddenly disappeared. Then, his fist smashed through the void and smashed toward Xia Zhilong like a meteor. When Xia Zhilong saw Yi Qinghan's attack, he didn't even bother to dodge. He only wanted to defeat Yi Qinghan and crush his Tao heart. He waved his hand and controlled the stars. The sun, moon, and stars appeared at the same time, bathing him in radiance. His entire body bloomed with light, as if the power of the world and the stars in the sky were mobilized by him. Whoosh! He lightly slapped out a palm, but it was earth-shattering. His aura soared into the sky, and the divine power of the void condensed into a 5-finger seal. It crushed mountains and rivers and grabbed toward Yi Qinghan. "Open!" Yi Qinghan twisted his waist, and the power rose from the ground. The mountains outside the city shook. The power of the absolute Saint Golden Body was enough to shake the sun and moon. The power of his fist was domineering. Boom! A fist and a palm collided. Flames soared into the sky, and waves of air swept out. Although his realm was not as high as the upper level, This power was not something an ordinary legendary level expert could guarantee. Chapter 2013. Boom. One punch seemed to be able to smash through mountains and rivers, while the other palm seemed to be able to crush the heavens and cause the earth to tremble. However, the magnitude was so small that it was almost negligible. After all, the chess saint had already formed a prison. However, the aura was still terrifying, and the visual impact made the hair of those standing far away stand on end. Bam bam bam! Both of them retreated after exchanging blows. Yes, both of them retreated. Xia Zhilong's 5-finger imprint was actually smashed through by Yi Qinghan. It smashed into the palm of his main body and received a majestic impact, causing him to retreat more than 10 steps. Bam! Yi Qinghan lost control of his body and retreated more than 30 steps. His strength was still slightly inferior, and such a result shocked the world. It was unbelievable, but he was not satisfied. Xia Zhilong could not use weapons now, and his combat strength had been suppressed to 40 to 50%. Yi Qinghan's advantage was his physical body. He played to his strengths and avoided his weaknesses, yet he still could not defeat Xia Zhilong. Naturally, he felt embarrassed. Roar! Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. His aura could swallow mountains and rivers, and the momentum of 100 miles was drawn in. He was like a giant that could hold up the heavens. His legs slightly bent as he gathered more strength and punched out again. Bam! Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground and shot out like an arrow. Even though his shadowless cloud had reached the small success stage, his speed was still extraordinary and could not be underestimated. Ordinary people would not be able to use a range of 300 meters, but he and Xia Zhilong were like dragons. Bam bam bam! Bam bam bam! Bam! The two of them flew through the air. Their legs and hands were their strongest weapons. They rushed into the void, but they could not break through the 300-square-meter range. It was as if this prison was indomitable and could not be broken. The two of them went up and down, striking with their elbows, fists, and knees. They collided again and again in a wild and domineering manner. Blood splattered everywhere, and everyone was stunned. Damn, where did this savage Yi Qinghan come from? He actually used his physical body to block the Crown Prince's peak combat strength. Too barbaric. It was 2F** King awesome. This power, every time it collided, it was at the peak of power, but I don't know who was injured. Outside the arena, those who had not seen much of the world exclaimed in amazement and disgust animatedly. Their chi and blood surged, and their faces turned red. They wished they were Yi Qinghan. Even if they lost to Xia Zhilong, it would still be a supreme glory. Just this battle alone would be enough to shock the world and set the world in stone. However, the people outside the arena were not the only ones who were shocked. The family heads of the powerful sects and legendary experts were dumbfounded. They knew Xia Zhilong's strength the best. In terms of combat strength among the younger generation, only Fan Yin was slightly weaker. Not many other legendary experts could fight against Xia Zhilong. As for the Nightwalker, there were two other young men dressed in simple clothing. Their eyes shone like torches as they stared at the battlefield. Their faces were expressionless as they tapped their fingers on the table. Although the sound was soft, it was obvious that they were trying to figure out how to deal with the situation. They placed themselves in the shoes of Yi Qinghan and imagined how they would attack or defend if they were in Yi Qinghan's shoes. Few people in the world knew the real names of these three people, but Fan Yin knew that other than the Nightwalker, the other two had long hidden their names and did not care about the world. They were in the same group as Xia Zhilong. Back then, Xia Zhilong, these two, and Fan Yin had become the world's 4 heroes and 1 fairy. However, the Emperor had been defeated in the end and could never make a comeback. He had been left far behind by the others. The four supreme martial artists were all staring at Yi Qinghan. Others could only see Yi Qinghan's strength and outburst, but they couldn't see that he was gradually falling into a disadvantageous position and had more than one wound on his body. Boom! Yi Qinghan was like a violent bear. He struck forward with his elbow and knee and collided with Xia Zhilong crazily. With one strike, sparks flew in all directions. The chessboard matrix shone brightly and the lines intertwined like a heavenly net. The visual impact blinded everyone. Those with weaker cultivation could not even open their eyes. Only the top experts could see clearly. Bang! Xia Zhilong's elbow collided with Yi Qinghan. Even with the protection of divine power, he could not withstand the golden body of the absolute saint. His elbow bone, which was the hardest part of his body, was broken. Blood splattered everywhere. The impact sent him flying hundreds of meters away. He crashed into the chessboard matrix enchantment and the matrix shone brightly. Yi Qinghan was in an even worse state. It was as if he had crashed into a divine instrument. He lost control of his body and crashed into the enchantment. His body almost fell apart and fell heavily to the ground. He was in a sorry state. Both sides were injured. Everyone was shocked by Yi Qinghan's violence. When they thought that the two of them were tied, the two of them stood up in an instant. Their faces were gloomy and cold. Ka ka ka! Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. In just 5 minutes, more than half of his divine power had been consumed. He was so tired that he could not even stand properly. However, the battle intent in his eyes was still strong. He had no intention of admitting defeat. Xia Zhilong snorted and shook his golden body. The injuries on his body recovered rapidly. The bloodline of the true dragon was indeed perverse. At this moment, the chess venerable stood up slowly and said with a smile, "Thank you, 9 Dragons Crown Prince and little Yi Qinghan, for personally livening up the fun for me. I have already received your kind intentions. Both of you are dragons and phoenixes among men. Let's consider this a tie." However, Xia Zhilong was unwilling. He quickly recovered his strength and said plainly, "Chess Saint, this is just a warm-up. Both of us did not use our true abilities. We are just relying on brute force. We are all cultivators. What we play is mystic arts and technique. It is rare for me to meet a worthy opponent." Chess Saint looked at Yi Qinghan's golden body bathed in light. His divine power was also recovering rapidly. The holy golden body was almost indestructible. Such injuries were nothing to Yi Qinghan. However, he did not want them to continue fighting. It would not look good if either of them were seriously injured. However, some people were unwilling to let this battle end like this. The 9 prefectures Lord, King of Hell, and Blessed Buddha Saint Master were unwilling to let this battle end like this. Amitba. Chess Saint, you are the host today. I did not want to embarrass you. However, I am the referee for this battle. We have agreed from the start that the performance will only end when one side concedes defeat. Moreover, these 2 young talents are evenly matched. Why not fulfill their wishes? Blessed Buddha Saint Master said plainly. That's right. Saints should understand the feeling of being evenly matched. It is inevitable that they would want to compete. Both sides were just warming up. Why not let everyone broaden their horizons? King of Hell also suggested. The Eternal Sword Saint could see that several saints wanted to kill Yi Qinghan. It would not be good to offend the saints. Therefore, he signaled with his eyes and shook his head at Chess Saint. Fanning was a little anxious. Although Yi Qinghan was strong, his cultivation time was like that of a baby compared to Xia Zhilong's. How could he be a match for him? If this continued, Yi Qinghan would be at a disadvantage sooner or later. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, no matter what, Yi Qinghan is indeed a junior. If he continues to fight with you like this, he will be at a disadvantage. Let's agree on 10 moves. If he gains the upper hand, he will win. What do you think? Fanning suggested in a low voice. No problem. 10 moves is enough. Xia Zhulong replied confidently. Yi Qinghan gathered all his aura and gathered his golden body. His divine power was also restored to its peak state. The holy golden body was completely awakened. It was like a heavenly battle weapon. Once again, he used the starting gesture of the 10-word formula. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.